How is everybody doing? I forgot to do one thing, and that is to cover the phone because it is in the sun. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes, you can hear me. Okay, perfect. Okay, I think we're good. We're good. We're good. You guys want to try a social experiment? Okay, let's see how many people go. Who else, who is here? Oh, hey, Erwin, nice to see you here. Martin, always a pleasure. All animals, all animal lovers are vegan. Hello. Yeah, with the sunglasses and the sun, and my phone being a bit of a shit phone, I may not be able to read all comments easily, but we'll do our best. Um, I don't think we're going to be staying for long. I think we're going to be doing like maybe an hour and a half, maximum 2 hours. But let's see how it goes, right? That's what we're going for. It's been a weird week. I've not doing outreach is kind of weird. It's 22 Celsius. Yeah, it's pretty warm outside. It's 22 Celsius. There's a lot of people on the street. A lot, like almost you know. Sometimes when there's so many people, not a lot of people want to stop. I guess because they just kind of follow the crowd. But let's see. Maybe we get some free thinkers today, huh? You want to try a social experiment? My throat is a bit dry. Hope you feel better now, says Martin. I do, Martin. I feel like normal. I've been feeling normal for like 3 days now. But my voice is still not, I feel like, completely normal. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to take advantage of being outside and actually doing some outreach now that there's such a beautiful weather. I know there's going to be a lot of beautiful weathers, but I think after a week or so, I am no longer infectious anyway. I don't have any fever or something like that. So, in theory, my body won. My body won. That's what it is. Hey, Felix, nice to see you here. How is everybody doing, by the way? How has life been treating you? The universe, the randomness of it all. You guys want to try a social experiment? You guys want to try a social experiment? I just ask you some questions, that's it. That's the problem when there's too many people. Everybody just follows the crowd. That's insane that people think that oh, we're so much better than animals, yet everybody just follows what everybody else does. Pretty much like what everybody in this whole world does. I wish I brought some tissues with me now that I say it. Normally I have them in my jacket, but I tried a different jacket because it was so warm. So I forgot my tissues. So I cannot blow my nose. So my nose is a bit snotty. Not great, but I'm going to complain considering what animals have to go through in comparison. I'm not going to complain. You can complain, like that's the whole thing. It's true. What animals go through is horrible, but you know, we also have our own lives. Our experiences also matter. So if you ever feel not good, you don't have to compare yourself or your experience with somebody feeling even worse. But rather just accept that maybe you are not feeling good in that moment, and it's all temporary. It will pass, right? Hey, Linda, nice to see you. Okay, nobody stops, we'll move on the other side. You want to try a social experiment? If nobody stops, we'll move on the other side. Okay, we'll give it 5 more minutes. The other side is just pure sun, so it's gonna be a bit difficult to. Well, it's not difficult. It's just gonna be annoying to sit in the sun. But you wanna try?
Yeah, for sure.
Are you okay being live for my YouTube channel?
100%.
What's your name?
Priamo,
Riamo. Where are you from?
Dominican Republic.
Love it. Okay, I'll ask you this. Should the powerful have the right to oppress the powerless?
Of course not.
What if they benefit from it? And by they, I mean the powerful.
That's even worse.
That's even worse. So they shouldn't be oppressing them.
No, I believe in a system that should be equal.
What if they're intellectually superior or physically superior? Does that mean they should have the right to oppress?
Are they powerful because they're intellectually superior?
Yeah. Or maybe physical or intellectual superior.
Then the system should be designed for everybody to have equal opportunity, meaning that the intellectual superiority is not always obtained, but it sometimes is born with.
Yeah.
So the system should be able to give us the opportunity for those who don't have the chance to, I would say, level out the intellectual opportunities to, or at least create those intellectual opportunities to level out the system.
Okay. But what if somebody's intellectually challenged and cannot possibly understand that they're oppressed?
This is where the system steps in. I would say the system should be able to, when I say the system, it doesn't necessarily mean a specific government or government body. It can be a combination of, I would say, of entities to be able to identify these opportunities. I believe this is the work that specifically I would say this is the initial work for the government, is to be able to identify these opportunities and be able to work towards them. People that have the intellectual advantage or the powerful people don't need the system to work towards them. I don't say that the system should work also against them, but it's the opportunity that we should be creating for the people that don't have that chance or don't have the level to be able to acquire these things.
I understand what you mean, but just to be clear, in this scenario that I'm posing, it should just be one individual having power over one other individual, right? So government usually don't intervene when it's just like the matter of two people, right? Like yes, it's true. If it's a systemic thing, government should intervene and do better. But in the case of there's one individual who wants to oppress another individual, and physically or maybe intellectually they can.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be moral to do.
Isn't that a little bit like slavery? It's because I have power.
Is a little bit,
Since I have power and I can pretty much impose what I want on you as an individual because of my power state. I think that's slavery, and I think that's even worse.
Yeah, slavery is a form of oppression.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
So do you think we should be discriminating whether somebody can be oppressed by phenotypes? Like color of their skin, like how smart they are, how they walk, stuff like that?
No, I don't think so. No. I don't think so.
Okay. So then my next question, and this is the final question,
definitely.
which might find you that you might actually switch positions and you might actually start defending oppression.
Yeah.
So what do you think about animals? Should we be oppressing animals?
That's a different story because in the end, we don't eat people. You know?
But we could, right?
Oh, definitely. But there's already scientific proof that eating human meat can be already dangerous to human itself. And that's why I would say...
Not all meat. Like if you eat mussels, it's the same.
Yeah, it is? Oh, that's a fact I didn't know. It's scary. A scary fact. I would say that we should have. But at the same time with animals, I would say it's the process of how we have domesticated and evolved towards animals.
But we don't need to do that today, right? Like I understand maybe in the past we did it because we needed to, but there was a need. But nowadays you acknowledge that there's no need to.
Definitely, and
animals,
I definitely see how this poses into saying, well, we have already been unsensitive towards animal because of millennials, and we have already been also unsensitive towards humans in certain cases, for example.
Exactly.
So I can definitely see how this poses the challenge. It's like, okay, we oppress animals, we make animals do what we want. It's not the same with humans because with humans we are the same race, we are the same type. So
does that
create the conflicts?
Okay?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that makes it okay.
Right. Like because at the end of the day, right? I believe the reason why it's bad to oppress a human being, it's not because they're human, but rather because of their capability to have an experience of the world, right? Yeah. They're a somebody behind those eyes. There's somebody.
Are an animal somebody too?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Like behind those eyes there is a somebody, and they have experience of the world.
Definitely.
They're just not as intelligent as us, and they can't communicate communicate with us, right?
Yeah.
Because they speak a different
Yeah.
language, I guess.
So it's also like opposing the questions like, then aren't domesticated animals slaves also?
Exactly. Are
Oh,
they? What do you think?
It feels terrible now because I have a dog and now I feel like my dog is my slave.
But you know, with the dogs, it's a little bit different if they're your pet, because I believe you don't treat them as a slave, right? You treat them as a
100%.
companion. You treat them as a member
100%.
of the family.
Not only a companion, even sometimes they would even have more benefit than us. For example, at least for my dog, I always switch for the better treatment. There's like no money goes to waste. It's like, oh, doesn't matter how much, I just want the best treatment for my dog.
Yeah.
When it's for you, it's like, well, today I'll eat a kebab in the street and I don't care if it makes me sick at 3 a.m. For my dog, it's like, no, for example, our dog, we feed
care for
raw
them.
food. Yeah, it's like raw food, the best quality meat that we can trace back to a specific farm, and we know that they're eating the best. So,
But let me ask you this, because you say you care about your dog, right?
100%.
You obviously believe your dog deserves moral consideration, right?
Yes.
Do you think there's anything special about your dog that makes it so that they deserve moral consideration, or do you think all animals deserve moral consideration?
No, that's the thing. It's very interesting because I come from a culture that is a little bit different to how we treat our dog. For example, in my culture, it's very common for you to have your dog in your backyard and he sleeps on the rain. And things like super common.
Yeah.
Obviously, times are changing, and I always said to myself, like, you know, if I want to have a dog, as you mentioned, I want to have a companion. I want to have my dog to have the same access, or at least that he can have as a dog.
Yeah.
My dog's not gonna sleep outside because, you know, outside is cold and outside is rainy, and I want to be able to have not the same opportunity because we're speaking of a dog, but I will do everything that I have in my power to be able to give him the best life that I can.
Yeah, so again, you give them moral consideration, right? And moral
Yes.
consideration means that if your actions impact them, you consider them morally, right? You
Yes.
consider their well-being.
Exactly.
And you definitely do that for your dog.
Yes.
Do you think you should do that to all other animals also?
Of course.
Of course, right?
Of course.
So then do you
Animals
think
should
that-
be treated the best way that we can.
Okay, and here's the difficult part, because
Yes.
if you are consuming animal products like milk, cheese,
Yes.
meat, all of this, do you think you are giving the animals that are exploited for those products moral consideration?
No, not at all. It's and it's a tough choice because you can come into the, I would say, into the aspect of saying, well, you know, there are animals that are raised to pretty much to serve, I would say, and then
Yeah.
we go into that dilemma of saying, but where you can.
Is it a dilemma? Like if somebody raises dogs for the purpose of killing them and eating them, does
Yeah.
it make it right to do so?
Then we go to the same place. We go into the same thing and saying, what about if I have humans and I raise them to obey me?
Exactly.
Exactly. You go into the
Exactly.
same dilemma,
Yeah.
and then you can battle and say, well, human is not the same as dog, and you can just go into this, I would say, circle. Definitely.
Yeah. So then, because I see like you kind of understand the point, you even
Yes.
bring it to humans, but
Yeah.
what is it keeping you from like going vegan and not exploiting animals?
who say I wasn't?
Are you? I don't know. Are you?
I'm not. I'm
You're
not. I'm not.
I'm just
I'm not.
assuming because most people aren't, right?
No.
Like if you were, it would be amazing.
Yeah.
But if you're not, can I ask
Yeah.
why not? Because your morals say that you should be vegan. You should be giving moral consideration to these animals.
Yes.
But somehow you skip that. Like what's happening
Yes.
there?
No, I think there's a combination of factors that come into play. A lot of things, it can be from the cultural background of things, how we were raised, not only as I were raised by my parents and what, for example, what my culture is common to eat, but what humans have been doing for millennia, I would say, it comes into play a lot of the times. Also, the access that we can have to certain things. Now it's really easy for you to probably be vegan or vegetarian,
Yeah.
and in this time where you can find replacement for a lot of things, where in my country 5-10 years ago it was almost impossible. It would
Yeah.
mean you would be eating cabbage every day and rice, pretty much.
Fair enough.
So I believe we're probably not doing 100% of the things that we should be doing to go into it, but I also believe that there should be a balance between making things sustainable, because I also believe, even though I believe in animals to
Sustainable
have,
in one way. What way? Sorry. for
yeah, so
interrupting.
I'll clear that out.
Yeah.
For example, there's here in the Netherlands, to give you an example, there's farms that sell the meat of cows, specifically when they're about to die, when they have reached
No, there's not.
no,
They all get killed at less than a quarter of their lifespan.
yeah.
Yeah.
then that's trash.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
But it's worldwide. That's just worldwide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly, I think.
Just to put it in perspective, why is because cows can live 25 years.
Yeah.
After 2 years or 3 years, maybe they stop growing. So
Yeah.
keeping them alive is like
It's a waste of money.
it's a waste of their money.
Yes.
Exactly.
So this is how I see it. As we continue to pursue more sustainability and not only how we eat, but also how we live, I believe that there will come a time where we can find balance into it. Because I also think that the way that we raise animals to consume them is unsustainable. A lot of the times, I've always read that I don't know what, it's like a really high percentage of food goes to waste because a lot of the times we don't even consume, we're so used to, if the meat is not fresh, we have to throw it out because, and so as we continue to play into stopping this over consumism of things, we're going to find a way to find these balance into doing. But I also believe that technology, one of the things that technology has really helped is how we approach now how we eat. For example, I'm a big fan of meat substitute for burgers and things like that. They're like places like Beyond Meat. They do like a fantastic job in replacing that I would say that feeling, because I also understand that previously like vegan substitution tasted like cardboard. I'm sorry for vegans out there, but
I don't think you've had the right ones.
oh well, 10 years ago, I'm pretty sure they were all cardboard. Not all cardboard, but I wouldn't say they were as tasty as they are right now. So
But okay. But let's, because you talk about societies, you talk about this, but do
Yeah.
you think that you as an individual have some responsibility for the animals that get exploited and slaughtered for you, for your choices?
of course, if you find the great replacements of the things that you could do, for example, I was a huge cow milk consumer, like huge. Even though I'm not Dutch, I probably consumed milk as a dog, milk as a Dutch guy. But I started replacing it because I also don't feel that the practices that go into specifically milk, it's fair, to be honest. And
What practices are those? Let's see if you know them. What
well,
practices?
I believe that in order for a cow to produce milk, they have to go into the pregnancy stage, and
Yeah.
then you have to take the calf away from them or
Yeah.
something like that.
Who do you think gets them pregnant? Do you think they get pregnant on their own?
Of course not. Of course not. If that would have been the case, maybe it would have been a little bit fair.
If we did that to humans, what would we call it? If somebody improved,
It's modern day slavery.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah.
100%. That's what I mean, And then I started like, okay, in order for us to start the change, we need to make the change ourselves. They sell milk because people buy it.
Exactly.
They sell milk because people buy it. And I think right now it's a good place for you to, like, if you go out to the supermarket, you will notice how many more milk replacements you can find, because also people are getting more aware of how they can start making a change, even by little. If you can, the best way to stop supporting this type of industry is to start supporting the alternative industry to these type of things.
But let me ask you, because you acknowledge that you can do it, that
Yes.
you can go vegan.
Yeah.
So what is holding you back from going vegan today, right now? From never putting an animal into a slaughterhouse, from never
Yeah.
sexually exploiting an animal,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, right?
Definitely. I think there's a lot of cultural challenges. It's a lot of
Well, what cultural challenges are you facing? Because like any cultural challenges, as far as I understand, it's like there are certain recipes and things that
Yep.
you cling on to, right? But
Yes.
you can still have those, but just do the plant-based version of them.
Yeah, it's true, and I have tried with doing the plant version of it. But as I mentioned, there's a cultural aspect of how precisely we were raised, and it's really hard for you to be able, if you don't have some sort of, I don't want to say motivation, but the dedication to be able to do it. Some aspects of life are really hard to do it cold turkey, and you really have to put your mind behind it. It definitely varies between.
But
I
if
would
it
say,
were dogs,
people.
I'm sorry for interrupting you there.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
You give really long answers. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But if it were dogs, would you find it important that you stop right away? If it
Dogs
were dogs
what?
instead of cows, dog milk, dog cheese, all of this. Dogs being forcefully inseminated.
I would say yes, but there's a difference to it.
Okay, well, what is that difference?
Well, we have not been raised to eat dogs.
Fair enough, but like, should that matter in your values and how you approach your choices? Because at the end of the day, you're still making choices 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And you could always be making the choice that is in line with your
Yeah.
values.
Yeah.
Right. And
But-
it's not like anybody's forcing you into one.
Yeah,
position or
definitely.
another.
But we are approaching the matter as if it's a yes or no, and it's not a yes or no. I think
It
there's
is to them, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
to them.
to the innocent animal that go into a slaughterhouse.
100%.
Even if you do it once a week, it's still yes to them.
yes,
right?
yes,
It's
100%. But I'm
slaughterhouse.
not talking about the aspects of the butcher killing the animal. I mean, it's the aspect of me figuring out if it were a dog. It's not, as I mentioned, you haven't desensitized towards dogs as you have been desensitized programmatically towards cows, chickens. So in order for us to, I would say, I would say this is one of the first steps in order for us to reverse this specific way of life that have been imposed to us, is be able to start being more sensitive towards animals and be able to see the animals as they are. A lot of the times we still relate, and specifically like carnivores, we still relate to a cow specifically as an animal that is completely designed to be eaten.
But is that what's holding you back right now? Like, let's say your next meal, right? You're out in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
There's obviously plenty of vegan alternatives.
Yes.
You literally can
Yes.
just pick from the menu and say, I want the vegan alternative.
Yeah, in
Wha-
fact,
is there any reason why you should choose anything else?
No, if I can, like, for example, if I can and I have to, I will do it.
Well, wait, if you can and if you have to, what do you mean by that? What does that mean?
No, if I can, if I have the available option for the things that I want
And
to
if you
eat.
don't have the available option, right? Like, I also, for the things that
Yeah.
you want to eat, I don't know what that means, right? But
Yeah.
like, let's assume they don't have what you want to eat. Do
Yeah.
you think that then it is fair for you to pick an option that exploits and slaughters an innocent animal?
No, I don't think so. That's the thing. You're looking at from the specific aspects of what's morally right. If you don't see that eating animals is specifically morally wrong, and specifically like the specific animals as cow, chicken, then you're not gonna be sensitized into it and to say, no, I'm not gonna eat a cow today because I've been eating that my whole life.
Can you hold this for a second?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you've ever seen this kind of stuff, but because you mentioned it correctly that
Yep.
they forcefully inseminate them. So I think I have it here. Sorry, it's a big.
No, go on.
So yeah, indeed, this is
Yep.
this is what they do, right? They
Yes.
they have to jerk off a bull.
Yep.
They forcefully
Yep.
inseminate them.
Yep.
Then sometimes they dehorn them and then
Of
they
course.
put machines
Similar
in
to
them.
chicken, they also remove the peaks from the chickens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
They separate the babies and
Yep.
they keep them in isolation, and then they kill them because they're useless. if
They're useless
male.
after it,
Yeah.
yes.
Same as the male chicks. Right?
Yes,
And
that's
all
correct.
of this shit, right? Like at the end of the day, I think like you're right that like we should choose, but I mean. This is just fucked up, right?
Yeah,
Like when
it
you
is.
say it's fucked up.
It is.
One animal. How many more animals should go through this before
Yeah.
you make a change?
And that's what I mean initially, that we need to be able to create the sensitivity again towards this specific practice and how we handle animal. Unfortunately, there's a lot of the
Is
meat
there a good
industry.
way of doing this?
The meat industry is very powerful. I think one of the best ways that we can do is putting more pressure on the government to be able to communicate us better on what are the benefits, because there also is this I don't want to say the stigma behind the plant-based industry or anything like that, but we always hear of how we can get proteins from the meat and these type of things. We always talk about the huge benefit that the meats have, but we never.
They don't. But like, do you need a benefit to know that you need to do the right thing?
No. But you have to understand, you've been raised by this your entire life, so this is already programmed into you. And this is what I mean. We should be able to put more pressure into the government into saying, there's alternatives to this.
I mean, listen, I would be the first person to put pressure on governments, but when 98% of the people want to buy meat, the governments cannot do anything about it. Governments don't do what necessarily is right. A lot of the times they do what is popular by
Yes.
people, right?
Yeah, but the 98% of people that buy meat, they buy meat because that's what they understand is the right choice. Who teaches what is the right choice?
Fair enough. We need more thought in that situation. But look,
Yeah.
I'm talking to you. I'm telling you that you can thrive on a plant-based diet.
Yeah.
I showed you kind of what
Yeah,
animals go
definitely.
through. You're well aware. You make comparisons with slavery when all of this. Like
Yep.
you're clearly have values that say you shouldn't be
Yep.
paying for the exploitation of animals. But somehow you still are going to go away from here. And I don't care what you did in the past, but in the future you're going to go away from here. I'm not going to be able to say anything to you, but you're going to be possibly supporting more animal exploitation. And
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like how can you morally justify that?
No, I'm not morally justifying that.
So you would be doing something that you know is wrong. You would be
Yeah,
moral.
yeah, definitely. But then there's the aspect of us of seeing how we can change things.
But why don't you want to change yourself before seeing how to change the world? I feel like if you can't change yourself, how can you change the world?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great point to make. I
Right.
think that's a great point to make.
So I'll ask you this: how many more animals should be exploited for you until you change?
I don't know. That's a trick question.
It's not a trick question.
I think it's a trick question because I think you're fishing for an answer of something that I cannot give you. You know?
The reason why I pose this question is because while you on your side you just see food, on the other side there's individuals who are exploited and slaughtered for you.
And that's what I mean initially when you mentioned it says you're painting this as if this is black and white. There's a lot of gray area and the things. So
Was there gray area for slavery? You compared it to slavery. Was there gray area to slavery?
I wouldn't say there's necessarily gray area to slavery.
So if you were if we were 200 years ago and slavery was rampant, and you could have the possibility to have a slave, do you think you would have been one who would have stood up to slavery or one who would have had a slave?
Well, in my country we still have slavery nowadays, and I'm one of the ones that stood against it.
But you seem now, like when you yourself compare the injustice to what slavery is, you don't seem to want to stand up to it.
No, and this is, I think you're missing the point of what I'm making. Once again,
and you keep saying that it's gray, but it is not gray.
If you're gonna keep interrupting me, I cannot continue making my points.
Sure, go on.
Are you mad or something?
No, go on.
It seems like you're not interested anymore.
No, I'm just looking away because I was sick for a week and I don't want to infect you. So that's why I'm just
okay.
I'm trying to be careful.
Okay. No, because it seems that we're not making a point and you seem uninterested in certain things. We need to continue finding way to, as I mentioned, to create the sensitivity towards these specific topics. It's really easy to see this as a black and white and to say, if you go to a store and you want to buy X chip or like, will you rather buy Y or Z, as if this is your first time making that choice? It's not your first time making that choice. You've been implanted with this idea, and this is what I mean. One of the best ways that we can start changes is putting more pressure into informing people. What are the benefits?
How would that help you? So other people, they're informed. You're already informed. That's my point, right? Like my point is, you keep saying.
Apparently not, because you corrected me with a lot of the facts that I had. So apparently I'm not very well informed.
But you're already informed. You already mentioned that it's an injustice that you don't want to be part of because you said, and you say that it's not black and white. So I'm assuming you're saying that it's gray. Please tell me how it gray as an injustice.
As I mentioned, it seems I'm not well informed because one of the facts that I gave you is that there's places here in the Netherlands that they would butcher the cow when they're pretty much ready to die, and they would sell the meat. And you said no. For me, I thought that was going to be a good practice because you still are allowing the cow to live their healthy life, I would say, and just consuming the cow when they die. And you corrected me. So as I mentioned, it doesn't seem like I have all the facts.
Thing, but you acknowledge that when you buy any other products, there's exploitation and slaughter behind them, right?
Yeah.
So now that I correct you, now that I informed you, as you say, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe you don't know all the practices, but you are well informed enough to know that when you will be buying an animal product, you will be supporting a system of exploitation, abuse, and slaughter.
Yeah, and definitely, and that's what I mean is, as we soon realize more and we get to know more, it can create this sensitivity for us making proper choices in the future,
yourself,
better choices.
I'm talking
about myself. I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking about anybody else. Okay. I think this would allow us to make better choices in the future if I have the full picture of how things are treated. What are the benefits? Also, and
but what are the benefits of not having a slave?
I'm not done. I'm not done. If you don't see how we treat animals in this specific area, then if you don't see from this perspective of how we have animals as slaves and we force them to have babies, then you don't get sensitized to them and be able to actually analyze your actions. By having these conversations, it helps us actually to be able to understand and say, okay, what do I need to change for myself to start making, to start pushing, I would say, the needle towards the other directions for sure.
But you do see it.
Now I do, yes, definitely.
Yes,
yes,
so
definitely.
That's my question. Like, I don't care what you did in the past.
Yeah.
Just my question is going forward.
Yeah.
If you do see it, as you say now, can you ever morally justify what you're going to be supporting?
No, definitely. You start to build a more consciousness toward it, and you start to see, you even might start to seek, I would say, alternatives, as for sure. Like if you see it on the menu.
How urgent is it to you? I'm sorry for interrupting.
What I mean about urgency?
Like, are you going to be like? Because I feel like you're saying, well, I'm aware of it now. I'm going to start to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
But and obviously, taking steps in that direction is obviously good. But if the steps that you're taking in that direction takes you 3 months to go vegan, then in that 3 months you're killing, 40 animals, something like that. And to those 40 animals, even if it's just 1 or 2 of those animals, to them they don't really care that you stop eventually. They just care that you put them in the slaughterhouse, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I posed this question is
Yeah.
because we need to rephrase how we think about these things. It's not about what benefit we get from
Yeah.
not exploiting them, because we don't get any benefit from not having slaves,
Yeah.
right? At the end of the day, you benefit way more from having a slave, but you don't do it because you know it's immoral. You empathize with them, with their
Yeah.
situation. So you seem to empathize with what animals go through. You seem to empathize with their
Yeah.
situation. Yet the change doesn't come that often, and I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like, how urgent do you see this as a needed change for you yourself? Not
Yeah,
the
definitely. I
society?
wouldn't say there's a sense of urgency here. It's true.
So would you say there is or there isn't?
There isn't. There isn't. Definitely. It's true. It's true.
So why isn't there a sense of urgency for you?
Because once again, you have to. It's a case of building the sensitivity as you go. You've been dealing with this your entire life. It's not. Imagine you're doing something your entire life. You're not gonna wake up one day and say I'm gonna stop. I mean, you can definitely do it, but it goes through hardship, I would say. But
So what's more hard for it? Is it more hard for you to stop or more hard for the animals? then?
it's not a proper comparison. I think it's not a
Well,
proper
we should
comparison.
compare victims of your choices versus your choices, right? Because what you're saying is that my choice is
Based on
difficult,
what?
but when you make a choice,
Okay.
your victims are having a way
Okay.
more difficult time than your
Yeah,
difficult
it's
choice,
true.
as you
It's
say,
true.
right?
Yeah,
So it is. I'm just comparing the two choices that you're making,
Yeah,
and we
definitely.
should be comparing the victims.
definitely,
on those sides, right?
definitely, it's true.
Okay. Well, I think like we're not going anywhere at this point. I'll just give you a card.
Definitely.
Can you watch the Minion or the most important speech ever here?
Definitely, I'll definitely do.
Okay, and there's one thing there called Challenge 22. They hook you up with a nutritionist and send you recipes every day.
Yeah.
They help you go vegan for free.
Definitely,
You just but just promise me you'll watch one of these.
I definitely do. I'll
Okay,
definitely
the
do.
Minion or the most important speech.
Definitely
you just
do.
gotta scan this QR code.
Awesome.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And come on, be compassionate. You're a
No,
smart fellow.
I
We need
appreciate
more
it.
people
I
like this,
appreciate
okay?
it. Have fun. Thank you.
Cheers. It's always a little bit sad when people like this guy don't really want to change, when they say that, well, they need time. I guess, like, maybe I should translate what he was saying, because what I felt like what he was trying to say is that I need a little bit of time to get that energy up and going. And I do feel like, once you get that energy up and going, it's like this, it's easy, right? It's just like getting out of bed at the end of the day, right? Sometimes it's difficult to get out of bed, because you're lazy or something. But once you get out of bed, you're like, what was the big deal about it? It was nothing, right? You just go on and do it. And I feel like that's kind of where he was at. And it's kind of sad that he wants to continue doing it, but what the hell can we do? I hope he informs himself. I hope after watching that he's like, shit, I don't want to be part of this. I don't know, something like that. That's all we can do at the end of the day. I feel like I was just starting to push him and he was just not budging. So yeah. Next person is vegan, says OG Najev. Yeah, I hope so. Najev, is it Najev or Nagev, or did I misread it? Sorry. Yeah, this was the first conversation. And everybody, if you've enjoyed the conversation, do the beautiful thing and subscribe. Wait, what? I get it. Sam Smith. Oh my God, Sam Smith, thank you so much. What is the temperature? The temperature is 20 degrees. Sam Smith, thank you. W's for Sam Smith. Thank you for the super chat. You want to try a social experiment? Are you for free healthcare for chickens as well? Wow, what kind of question is that? I'm for free healthcare for humans. I believe healthcare should be a human right. Just like life is a human right, why shouldn't health be a human right, right? So yeah, I'm for healthcare for humans, free healthcare for humans. Free healthcare for animals, I don't know what to tell you about that. I don't think animals should be part of our society, personally, in any way. I think we should be separating, and well, if we ever want to have companions or animal friends, well, we should find better ways to do it than we do today. But either way, animals should not be the slaves of our society. They shouldn't be the individuals who we exploit and slaughter just because we want to get something from them. Actually, this whole prompt of you asking me about healthcare, it actually got me going. Because that's an interesting thing, huh? Should we have free healthcare for humans? 100%, 100%. You know, a lot of the diseases that humans get may be out of their control, right? So then, shouldn't we, like, because pollution can cause a lot of, diseases. It can cause a lot of morbidity. So if we get morbidity coming from external sources, shouldn't those be guaranteed by the government as your right to health, since the government hasn't done a good enough job protecting you from these morbidities? But yeah, that's interesting. What would we do with the pets already in homes? Well, I'm not saying give away your pets, I'm saying, like, let's build a society where we no longer exploit animals for whatever it is that we want, entertainment, companionship, whatever it is that we want. And if we ever make pet friends, or if we have pet friends, or if we take animals from rescue and keep them as pet companions or as friends, as I said, then I have no problem with that. Of course, at the end of the day, I'm not against having relationships with animals. I'm against having dominance over animals, against the claiming that we are somehow better than them, against and especially against asserting that. Like, even if you think that, asserting that is the problem, right? Where you're like taking your perceived dominance and exploiting or slaughtering them. That's insane for something that you don't actually need. Well, somebody else donated. Sam Smith again. It has been a few days since you were street active. Yeah, thank you, Sam Smith, again. Thank you so much. W. Yeah. Yeah, there's no. I was gone for a bit because I was a bit sick this week. I had a viral infection. Something going around in Amsterdam, apparently. But yeah, I'm better now. I'm here, and we're here to do some activism. Can I see the sign? Yeah, sure. The sign says, I'm doing a social experiment. Come talk to me. It's mirrored for you because YouTube mirrors the view. So, yeah. Hey, you want to try a social experiment? Just ask you some questions. That's it. Vegans heal faster. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think, like, if you are a healthy person, yes, you do heal fast. I think that if you are consuming enough vitamin C and zinc, which are pretty much the pillar of a good immune system, you are going to heal a little bit faster. I think that if you sleep well, you are going to be healing faster. And there has been some studies, but take them with a grain of salt, about I think, what was it, elderberry extract for flu specifically, by it actually reducing the flu duration by 1 day if you take it from the start of the flu. I actually have been taking elderberry extract, but I don't fully believe that study is 100% accurate. Yeah, there were some problems with it. So I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, I think you can be healthy either way. That's not the point, right? Why we're here. I think the point is that if you can be healthy without needing to do horrible shit to animals, why would you ever choose to do horrible shit to animals? That's the whole point. Michael says our stomach is designed for meat. No, it is not. What do you mean? Why would our stomach be designed for meat? Our stomach is designed as an omnivorous. We can eat both plants and animal products. Where are you from, brother? I'm originally from Romania, but I'm here living in the Netherlands. You want to try a social experiment? Humans can digest meat. Yeah, sure, of course. I never doubted that. Guys, chip would obliterate AI, animal life from the planet. What? All animal life from the planet. Why would I ever want to do that? No. I think we should respect animals. That's what I'm here for. Wow, that is such a ridiculous claim. It's so funny that I've had this all my life. When you stand up for something, people will start making up claims about yourself. I don't know why that is. I don't know. Why is it? Why did you make that up, huh? Well, why? What's the problem with standing up for animal rights? Do you think animals should not have the right to body autonomy? Do you think we should do whatever we want to animals because we get some form of perceived pleasure or benefit? because I don't believe so. I believe animals have equal intrinsic value to any other sentient being on this planet, and that includes humans. You want to try a social experiment? Navia, you just go out and bite the. Vegetarians have smaller brains. Well, first of all, I don't think that that is factual or has any empirical data behind those claims. But luckily, we're not vegetarians. We don't exploit animals for optional products. We're actually vegans, and we choose a plant-based diet because we know we can, and because we know we can thrive on that. Hello. Are you okay being live for my YouTube channel?
Yes.
Okay, can you guys come like here or somewhere so that you can be in view? I'll ask for your names. What's your name?
Esther.
Esther?
Natalia.
Valentina. Daniela.
Okay, where you? I'm assuming Spain somewhere.
Mexico.
Mexico. Okay,
Yes.
okay. Some Spanish-speaking country. Okay, okay. Let me ask you. How do you feel about animals?
I like them. They're pretty. And
like
we
them?
should take better care of them, I think.
Okay, okay. Well, how about you? What do you?
I think they are amazing and we should take care of them.
Okay, you?
I like them too, like neutral maybe, yeah.
Yeah, same. And I don't know, coming from the museum, we talked earlier that there's a lot of animals that have been domesticated and that it's weird, and some others that are coming back, like
From extinction
yeah,
and stuff, yeah.
like the
Yeah,
rats.
like-
What was
Like
that?
the wolf that has been like extinct and they are now like trying to modify and bring them back
But
to life.
artificially, so that's weird. I don't know.
Okay, so let me tell you one interesting thing. So in Thailand, I'm sure you've heard of Thailand, right? Where they have a lot of coconuts. Do you know what they do with monkeys?
No.
So they put a chain around their legs and they use monkeys to grab coconuts from trees.
Okay.
And
okay.
they basically enslave monkeys in order to get coconuts from trees. How do you feel about that?
Badly. Like it
Yeah.
shouldn't be done.
They
It
could
shouldn't be.
find a better way to do it
They
with
could find-
I think
machinery
that
or
is
something. like-
disrespectful for the species and they shouldn't be able to do that.
Okay. That's disrespectful. Okay, but what if these monkeys were specifically bred for that purpose?
It's the same. I think it's the same.
Because it's still a live creature, like a living being.
Okay.
When monkeys were created, they weren't created for that. We were the ones who like modified them to be able to do that. So
So that doesn't make it right?
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
no.
No.
Okay.
Pero no fueron creados para eso.
Okay, well, let me put also another situation in mind. So we get this animal pregnant, and then after they get pregnant, we take away their babies so that we can steal their milk. Is that okay?
No.
No,
No, it's the same.
It's the same.
it's the same.
Do you know what animal I'm talking about?
Cows.
Yeah,
Cows,
exactly,
Yes, of
yeah.
course, yes.
Yeah. Do you think it's fair to take away their milk for something with?
No.
No?
It's the same thing. Yes.
Yeah. What do you think happens to the baby if they're born male, for example?
Males? Maybe they are killed if they're like.
If they
well.
don't serve for like a purpose they wanted to serve, they get rid of it.
Is that okay with you?
No.
No. But do you consume dairy products?
I try not
Sometimes,
to.
yes,
like,
but,
like soy milk, almond milk, like that. There's also some ethics like behind it, but like.
But cheese and stuff, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes yes.
Isn't that going against your own
Yeah,
value
yeah,
just now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is it? Do you think it's important that you align your values with your actions? Or do you think it's important that you change your values and say, no, we should be doing this to cows?
No, the other
No,
way.
The other
it's
way.
The other way.
Maybe progressively, like
Change
maybe
your
today
habits
I cut
and-
out this, and maybe I can buy another thing like that.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think you can choose something else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. But I do think it's like a progressive performance. Yes, transition. You
Why
can-
is that?
I mean, you're used to like eating some kind of stuff since you were born, because you don't decide what you're eating, and then when you already have like own rational thoughts and your own decision, you can change it. But also your body like is also used to what your parents were giving you. I mean, it has to be like a smooth transition in order for you to be able to like get used to it really. And
What would
do it.
happen if it isn't the smooth transitions?
I'm not sure. Like
I don't.
it
I don't
depends.
think
I
it
think
really
like,
affects
uh-huh.
like in your body and stuff. Maybe it's more like social and cultural. Like maybe people will get mad because I'm not having my cheese or I'm not having like that. But I don't really think that it would like.
And if people get mad, should we care about the people going mad? I mean, obviously we shouldn't be getting people
No,
mad,
no.
but should we care more about them or the victims, the animal victims?
The victims, yeah, like 100%. Like if tomorrow, maybe I would be one of those mad people, but then later I think I would be like, like maybe it's more important they're like, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so and I mentioned dairy, right? Like I think we're all kind of in the same place that it's wrong to do this for them. Do you think for meat is the same? Do you think it's okay to do it?
No,
Nah, it's the same.
It's the same, yeah.
same.
Yes.
Yes.
What about for leather? I'm not sure if that's leather.
No, it's fake leather.
Oh, it's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
What about for leather?
No, I think that's even worse because I understand like the need of feeding from something, but just wearing it or like using it for fashion or whatever. I think it's worse. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not. Okay, yeah. So it's wrong. It's wrong for fashion. It's wrong for taste, pleasure. It's wrong for nutrition. So
Why do we still?
you girls have vegan values, like as far as I see, right? Like, why is it that you're not vegan already? What's going on
I
there?
used to
My
be a
parents
vegetarian.
don't let me.
I used to be a vegetarian for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Then I didn't really like informed, like so good to have like a good a nutrition regime.
Yeah.
And I started like to have how do you name it? Anemia. And then it was easier for me like to say, well, I'll go back to meat. But yeah, like it's easier. Like it's honestly
Isn't it easier to take a supplement?
no, because I used to take it like B12. They told me like to take
Yeah.
it, but it brought acne. Like my whole face was like full of acne because of the B12. Like for taking it like in pills.
Well, I mean, B12 is an interesting one. Where do you think B12 comes from?
I thought that it was from protein and from meat and
But animals also have to get it, right? So where do you think animals get it from?
plants.
Yeah, well, not plants, but like it's a bacteria that produces B12.
Okay.
Some animals do have a little bit of it from their stomach, but most of that they produce it. They don't get it from their stomach, right?
Uh-huh.
So the bacteria that was normally on the ground, because we've industrialized everything, we kind of fucked up the ground. So that bacteria is no longer that prevalent. So in all farms nowadays, they actually give them B12 supplements.
Okay. So,
So
we're
when-
taking like yeah.
So you're actually taking a B12,
Like a second-hand.
second-hand B12. Exactly, right? So I don't know what was the thing with acne. I'm a certified nutritionist, by the way. I've never heard of
Okay.
getting actual acne from
Okay.
B12. Maybe it could have been like a correlation. You know, I don't know how old you are, but
How old do I look?
I don't know, 16, 18.
I'm older, way older.
Wait, no.
Way older. See, 22.
22. Okay. Well, I just it's you know, all of us in our life we go through periods
Yeah.
where hormones kind of change up and down, they vary, and it could have been that. I don't know, but like I mean, you know, I like to speak about morals because it's pretty clear that your morals are on point, that we shouldn't be doing this to animals, and yet going away from here after you have this conversation with me, are you gonna continue consuming animal products? Are you gonna continue like paying for the rape of cows?
The way I put it, like it's like, yeah, it's easier for me to maybe just like ignore it, like, but
Yeah.
if you have it present, it's a different thing. Like I don't
You
know.
try to reduce
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
the amount of consumption.
And change the habits
Yeah.
and take in mind that you are doing damage to nature and animals and that it's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously reducing is great, right? Like, but if I were to take another injustice that would be happening in the world, right? Women getting beaten up, right, by their husbands, and there's this one friend. Let's say it's a hypothetical. This isn't actually happening, and my friend is beating their wife every day, and I'm like, hey, dude, this isn't okay. You know, they're an individual. You shouldn't be doing that. And they're like, okay, you're right. You convinced me. I will reduce it. I will only beat her on Tuesdays from now on. Is that okay, or is it?
No,
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 that's
yeah,
not
yeah,
okay.
I
But
totally
I
get the
but I
point,
do
yeah.
think that you can't put in the same level violence towards women at this point in the world and in life than violence towards animals. I mean, I know it's kind of like maybe morally incorrect for me to say it, but I think like the reason why men violent women, it has not like it's not the same reason why people violent animals. Like it's a different train of thought.
It's a different
that
reason. I
happens.
give you that.
And I think that's what makes it like wrong, you know? I mean, of course the fact that she's getting beaten, but also the fact of why she's getting beaten, not just the fact that she's getting beaten. You know?
Sure, I understand what your point, but like, and obviously violence against women is to us humans worse than violence against animals, right? because they're our own species. We empathize easier with them. We wouldn't want anything to happen to us, and therefore, it's like this whole thing. But if you think about from the perspective of the victim, violence towards them, whether they're a species humans or whether they're a species cow or whether they're a species mouse, whatever they are, like it's just as bad. They still feel the same violent things towards them.
Yes,
They
of
still
course,
don't
no.
understand what the purpose is behind it. They just feel the violence, and they don't want any of it to happen to them, right?
Of course, yes. No, that I get. I just think like the reason behind the whole violence towards women at this point in time is what makes it the problem instead of like the violence itself, And
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like the problem is the reason why.
exactly.
We have.
And I
Well,
think
it's the same
it,
reason.
It could be yes, but I also understand like, I mean, I'm not agreeing with like violence towards animals, but I think it is different to.
It's a different injustice. Yes,
Yes,
it's clearly a
like,
different
For
injustice.
feeding someone, for example, what I said, like for fashion, I don't see the point of it. But I think it's way worse to like have leather for fashion than, I mean, it's the same
It's the same,
treatment
isn't
and
it?
everything they do to them, but it's even more unreasonable to do it just for fashion instead of for.
Because it's optional, right? Like we need to
Yes,
wear
like,
clothes, right? Like
exactly,
we
but
have a
you
society
could
where
wear,
we need.
like cotton, polyester, whatever. You don't have to wear leather.
So then couldn't I say exactly the same thing about food? You don't need to eat animals or animal products. You could eat anything else, right? You could be eating
Yes, of
vegetables,
course.
legumes, pasta, rice, beans, all this kind of stuff, right?
Totally,
So
totally.
isn't it exactly the same as wearing leather? Isn't it just as useless at the end of the day if you have alternatives?
Yeah.
Isn't it
Yes.
just as
Yes, but
redundant?
I understand it's harder for humans to find alternatives for food than for fashion. I mean,
We have way
the-
more
and the-
alternatives for fashion than for food.
yes.
I'll give you that.
And
yeah.
also the fact that like clothes are clothes and fitting yourself is like a human necessity, like basic needs. So I think that makes it a little like different, kind of.
I think they're both necessities, right? We need to wear clothes. We need to eat food. We have alternatives for clothes. We have alternatives for food. We have a little bit more alternatives for clothes than for food. But at the end of the day, should it matter? Because as long as we have at least one alternative, we should be good enough, right? We don't need plenty of alternatives. I mean, sure, it would be nice. And I actually think nowadays we do have a lot of alternatives, but
Yes.
Yeah.
So here comes the difficult questions because I don't want to keep it for too long. Like, how many more animals should be exploited for you on your behalf until you change?
I mean, I'd like to think that I am changing constantly and actively reducing the way I consume and like being more mindful. So
I think it's a matter of
hopefully
time.
not-
Like
yeah,
you're giving me
not-
something to think about.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, because-
Exactly.
The answer should be none.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that it's difficult for everyone. But if you like give these talks and make everyone to think about it and see the difference and see that you need to make a change, the progress starts
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
So like choices. The thing is, like, we gotta also when you say it's difficult, we also gotta consider the choices that we're making, right? Because when we choose an animal product, maybe it is a little bit more difficult for us to choose the plant-based option. But the difficulty, do you think it pales in comparison that when we choose an animal product towards the difficulty that the victim suffers, that the animal
No, it's
suffers?
not the same.
No, like they have
No, I
way
think-
more
yes,
difficulty,
yes.
So
right?
they don't
course.
even have a choice.
Yeah, so we have to so we have to at least consider them in our choices, right? Like we can't just say, well, it's difficult for me, therefore I don't care if it's impossible for you to get away from it, because it is impossible for them to get away once we make these choices. And if I can tell you just right off the bat, it's not difficult. It's just one of those things like it seems difficult because our brain doesn't really
Yeah.
like change, but once you do it, it's like it's
Yes.
pretty easy.
Yes.
I'll just give you some cards. Do I give you one, two,
Yeah.
three, four
Yeah,
cards?
sure.
How many?
Four. Give us
Four.
one.
Four.
Yeah. For each other.
Okay, I'll give you 4 cards. That's good. Okay. You also have my social media there. I urge you to watch the interview that you just had
Thank
with
you.
me, right?
Okay.
One thing I
Thank
will
you.
ask you, just promise me one thing you'll watch, because we've had this conversation. I feel like we haven't dived into everything. Just watch the Minion or the most important speech you'll ever hear. I wrote them
Minion,
down here.
okay.
Yeah, you just have to scan this QR code and they'll appear there.
Okay,
Just
okay.
to just to know kind of what you're paying for. And there's nothing wrong with getting informed. That's it. That's my whole mantra,
Yeah,
right?
no.
So you get informed, and then if you choose that you
Yeah.
don't want to be part of it, I hope that you don't. There's a thing there called Challenge 22. They hook you up with a nutritionist, send you recipes, and help you go vegan for free.
Okay. Perfect.
It's all that you need, okay?
Okay.
And
Thank
while
you
in
so much.
Amsterdam, choose the vegan restaurants. They're much better. This is just a tip.
Okay,
And
okay.
I'm
Okay,
just
Do
saying
you
it.
have
Very
like a
perfect.
recommendation in particular?
Are you for now or for when?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe for now or for tomorrow.
There's a vegan sushi bar, which is really good if you like sushi. It's the best sushi I've ever had. There's the Old Soul right here. So it's right there. And there's a Karma Kebab, which is also over there. If you want like a kebab, like something for lunch right now, Karma Kebab is a really good option.
Okay.
It's really good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
But I think if you
Thank you.
Google on Google Maps and say vegan restaurant, you'll get it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Hi. You wanna have a conversation with me?
Yeah, sure, man.
What's your name?
I'm Vikramjeet Singh.
So-
And you are?
Say it again.
Vikramjeet Singh.
Vikramjit Singh. I'm
Vikramjeet Singh.
Vikramjit Singh.
Yeah.
Nice
yeah.
to meet you. I'm
Yeah.
Chip. I guess you kind of heard a little bit of this conversation that we're
Yeah,
having.
yeah.
We're talking about animal ethics. How do you feel about animal ethics?
Animal ethics, like specifically about what?
Like, do you think we should be exploiting or slaughtering animals for optional products?
I was just listening into the conversation, and one thing that struck my mind, the first and foremost, is like humans are kind of complex organisms, right? And if I speak from what my religion or what my religious textures have written out, right? So in Sikhism, our gurus have written one thing, that people fight over meat, or people fight over if you should eat meat or not, but people never discuss if you should actually exploit your fellow human being or not. So I think that unless and until we stop the exploitation for our fellow human beings, I think we will not stop the exploitation of animals, right? Because it's primarily if you can't even respect your fellow,
But why do you have to have
creature.
both, right? Like at the end of the day, when you're consuming, when you're eating, when you're buying clothes, you're making choices yourself, and nobody's forcing you into these choices. So why not make the choices that don't exploit animals or humans?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? So you have to consciously make choices that do not exploit any other organism, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
It's-
But like
yeah.
I would personally argue that the level of exploitation for both animals and humans is considerably bigger when it comes to animal products, because the humans that have to slaughter these animals, the humans that have to raise these animals and then give them away. You see farmers crying when they give away their animals. Slaughterhouse workers having PTSD because of working with blood all day long and killing thousands and thousands of animals each day. I would say that it's monumentally worse than anything you could get on a plant-based diet. And regardless, like even if there is some exploitation within the plant-based area, the plant-based agriculture is part of animal agriculture also, because we have to grow plants to feed the animals.
Yeah.
So any exploitation that you would otherwise have in plant agriculture, you would have on top of that any exploitation that animal agriculture provides. You see what I mean?
Right, in that thing, I would say, over-exploitation of anything would be bad, right? So
Yeah.
even if we completely stop using animal products, right? So that would mean that the crops and other stuff is getting over-exploited, right?
No. They would actually have less crops because we grow more crops to feed animals. It's a simple principle of energy, right? The energy that animals get from plants, obviously they're not going to give the same energy to them, to us, right? Their body wouldn't store that whole energy, just like our bodies don't store all our energy, right? So it's why we have the trophic, the pyramid of
The food chain.
Yeah, the food chain. It literally says that, well, plants get their energy from the sun, and then it's like a pyramid, right? And then the animals that eat those plants get some energy, and then the animals that eat those animals get even less energy. That's why it's a pyramid, because it just mentions how little energy you get at the top of it eventually, right?
Yep.
So obviously, because all those plants are grown specifically for animals, then we would actually be growing less plants in the end. We would be exploiting less plants and no animals.
No, I can't really say that, because, if we talk about this, so let's say that you are saying that we are growing less plants to feed the animals, and we are, consuming less animals in that sense, right? But at the end of the day, if we let the animals go on their own, right? So how are we going to make sure that the animals thrive in their environment as well, right? At the end of the day, they are still going to consume this stuff, right?
Well, no, because all these animals, we breed them to life specifically to exploit them. If everybody were to go vegan, we wouldn't be bringing animals to life all for the sole purpose of exploiting them. There would be considerably less animals. Like at any point in this moment right now on
Yeah.
Earth, there are up to 25 billion chickens that are being exploited for food. those wouldn't exist anymore. Imagine not having to feed 25 billion chickens. Do you think we couldn't feed 8 billion people on what we feed 25 billion chickens?
But the issue with that would be the feed that we are giving to the chickens is considerably different to what we are going to
No,
feed
no,
to a
no.
human
We
being,
actually
right?
feed a lot of them. Well, a lot of them will feed corn and soy, which both of them are actually very edible by us. Yeah.
No, but at the same time, is it going to be the same grade as the one that you are going to feed yourself?
Yes, it is. And even if it isn't, it doesn't matter because the space occupied by that plant can be occupied, like we don't have to grow the same plants, we can grow different plants if we want. We would still occupy less land in the end, It takes, I think, so there's a study that says it takes up to 6 times more land to grow, to make 1 gram of animal protein versus 1 gram of plant protein. So we would be basically using 6 times less land if everybody was to be going on a plant-based diet.
Okay, but that would be half truth because not every type of soil can grow every type of crop, right? So let's talk about if we go to a vegan diet as well, right? Because just to clarify, I'm a strictly vegetarian.
But do you know what veganism is, by the way? Because it's not a diet.
You're not consuming any animal.
But it's not a
products,
diet, by the way.
Yeah.
So what is it if it's not a diet?
So vegan is a style of living that where you are not using any animal products, right?
It's a moral position. It's nothing more than saying we respect animals. We don't
Yeah.
want animals to be exploited for us. It's rejecting animal exploitation.
Yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, as a consequence, we're not going to be eating them or eating their flesh or using them to make food, right?
Yeah.
Or clothing or entertainment or anything like that.
So if I talk about, let's say, a very staple diet we have in almost every culture, which is rice,
Yeah.
right? So just to grow rice, so let's say you're growing 1 kg of rice, right? It might take you about 100 liters of water just to grow 1 kg of rice. That's the actual hard truth.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, that's actually one of the issues in Punjab, back in India, right?
But it
You
takes
are-
monumentally more water to grow
Yeah,
animals.
no. So that's what I'm saying, right? If you are feeding, let's say, corn or soy to animals, right? So it takes considerable less amount of water to grow those crops, and then you feed those crops to those animals, and you consume
No,
those
no,
animals.
no.
Yeah,
No, it's still more water.
no, yeah, because it's these crops. Yeah,
It's way more water usage. This isn't me. There's plenty of scientific studies
Yeah,
going out there. You can literally go on the IPCC, which is the International Panel for Climate Change,
Yeah.
which is the largest organization of environmentalists on the planet. There are scientists there who have won the Nobel Prize several times.
Yeah,
There's all these laureates and also Nobel laureates who have done this research, selectively chosen specific research which to put in each of their reports. And one of these reports do show exactly this, that considerably, like I think it's 3 times less water use, 4 times less land, and biodiversity would be somewhere also like at a third. So we would be considerably better for the environment if we were all to be choosing plant-based diets.
No, but that also brings with itself the same question, right? So if we say that everything has been stopped, all animal products have been stopped, everyone goes to vegan, but then that brings with itself its own challenges, right? Because if you're growing the crops, like you said, that it's going to use less water and less stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it's going to use something more, which is not being used right now, and
No,
then
it's
it
not.
becomes
That's what I'm saying. It's not.
So,
We're actually going to have way more land
if you say that
and way more greenery.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying, right? If you are trying to stop one thing and you're trying to grow up another thing, right? You can never say that it's not, because if
You
anything
can if
is
it takes
growing,
if
right?
it takes 4 times more land to grow 1 gram of animal protein versus 1 gram of plant protein. You can definitely say that if people are going to be eating animal protein, they're going to be using 4 times more land, aren't they?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
So
right?
if
But-
they switch to plant protein, they're going to be using a quarter of the land.
But then again, right? If you are saying that everyone has to go vegan and you have to have the diet,
But that's
which
not the
is-
reason why everybody should go vegan. This is
Yeah.
just environmental
No,
things.
that's what I'm saying, right? So if you're saying that, then you have to grow more variety of foods, right? So it's all about consumerism as well, right? So if you say that,
It's not because veganism is not about that. Like I entertain this discussion for your sake, but the reality is veganism is about the idea of not exploiting innocent animals. Do you think it's okay to exploit innocent animals? Do you think it's moral?
yeah,
to do
that's
so?
what I'm saying, right? It's not okay to exploit anything, right? Everything in nature is not
So
exploitable.
how can you
It should
morally
not be.
justify consuming animal products when you know that you can choose for animals to not be exploited and not consume animal products?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? It's all about your choices that you make, right?
Okay, but
you are-
your
if
choice.
you are-
How can you morally justify your choice
Yeah.
of exploiting animals when you can choose not to?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? If I choose not to, that's my choice. Right? It's completely up to me. But if someone is choosing to eat that,
So do
right?
you think it should be a choice whether we should exploit innocent animals?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, right? what do we define by innocent animals, right? So that's another question.
Animals
right?
that have not attacked you, animals that don't have any fault in something, animals that are innocent, that are that are, how should I put this? They have done nothing wrong to you.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? So when
Or
we discuss
anyone.
about the food chain at the very start, right? So animals in their essence is going to be innocent, right? But then again, the food chain has to be going, right? So
No,
if,
no, no,
if
it
let's
doesn't
say,
have to be going.
yeah,
A
yeah.
lion doesn't have to be bringing up to life gazelles. A lion doesn't bring gazelles to life for the sole purpose of exploiting and killing them. A lion doesn't sexually exploit gazelles so that he has something to eat.
Yes.
We have other options. Do you think if a lion had other options to eat, he would actually choose to run and try to catch a gazelle instead of eating something else?
Yeah, but that's what the saying is, right? If the lion did have the choice, right, then it would have done. But the lion wasn't made that way,
Yeah,
right?
so you have the choice. So I'm asking you, how can you morally justify exploiting animals when you can choose not to? Morally. How do you think that, how can you say that it's okay to do this to animals when you can choose not to?
Yeah, but it's also about your dietary preferences, right?
Well,
So,
if
yeah,
my
yeah.
dietary preferences say that I want to exploit and kill humans, I should be allowed to, because
Yeah.
it's about my dietary
So
preference.
that's what I'm saying, right? Over-exploitation for anything would be bad. But then again, right, if I'm saying that I want to eat
But you're missing the
something or
point.
consuming something that is going to nourish myself, right? So it's
So why
something
not
that
you eat
is-
humans?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? You cannot do anything like that, right? So
Wait, why not? Why can't you eat humans? They're going to be nourishing you. Why not?
yeah, that's exploitation, right? That brings me back to the point that I discussed at the very
So
start.
would you say it's
right?
immoral to choose to exploit humans for food?
No.
No?
It's not morally good to exploit anything, right? So, like, let's say about this thing, right? I'm saying that it's not good to exploit anything. And if we stop consuming animal products in its entirety, right? Then
We
are
would
going
be
to-
exploiting less,
we are going
less
to be
plants.
yeah. So
We're
that's what I'm
not
saying,
going
right?
exploiting
We are
animals.
going to be
in a
putting
better
more
world.
pressure on the land to grow those crops.
No,
so you're
again,
saying,
like, oh my
yeah,
God, Jesus Christ!
No,
How do you not get it that we're not going to be using
yeah,
more
that's what I'm
land?
saying, right? So assuming that you're saying
It's not
that to
assumption, it's science.
Yeah. If you feed the chickens, right, you're saying that you're going to feed them grams or you're going to feed them worms or something like that, right? So that's what I'm saying, right? If you're going to go grow more crops and you're going to put all of the dependence on the vegetable-based
Christ.
diet, right? At the end of the day, what you're going to do is you're going to have more variety. You need to have
Explain
more
to me
variety.
how.
Because currently a lot of the dietary preferences are being relied on the animal products, right? You have fish, you have chicken, you have goat, you have other stuff, right?
Okay, so those have certain calories and protein, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
if you can get the same amount of calories and protein for using less plants than those animals would have otherwise eaten, doesn't that put less strain on the land?
Yeah, but that's again one thing, right? So if you're putting less strain on the land, there are also going to be more resources that are going to be used to process those stuff, right?
How can there be more resources if there's less land to be processed? Do you think the other land doesn't also use resources to be processed?
but what I'm saying,
what's your
right,
logic? How does that logic
So,
work?
Yeah, I simply explain the logic to you, right? If we take an example of rice, right, it's a very staple thing, right? So if you're going to say that, in a meal...
How much? Okay, well, 100 grams of rice. How much calories does that provide? I think around 400 calories, right? Let's just assume that, right?
Okay.
Okay, I don't
But
know
how much protein will is going to provide you?
I don't know. Well, I don't.
Very, very-
rice,
very
but rice
less.
isn't even a good
Very-
source of protein, is it?
Yeah, that's what I'm
So-
saying, right? So for a good
so-
source of protein, you'll have to consume the
Soy.
meat products, right?
No, you have to consume soy.
But soy also doesn't give you enough
Or-
protein, right?
What do you mean? Soy gives you more
Yeah,
protein
no,
than
but-
animal products.
But then again, if you're consuming more soy, right, you're not distributing your diet, right? You're just relying on one source of protein.
No, you
and
can also
even
have
protein-
chickpeas, lentils, beans, tofu, tempeh. Wait, what else should I? There's plenty. There's so many
Yeah,
sources of
there's so
protein.
many sources
I'm a
of
certified
protein,
nutritionist, man.
but-
Like protein comes from all plants.
Yeah, but then again, what I'm saying is that there's not just one type of protein, right? From
There
each
is.
source
There
of.
is. What do you
from-
think a protein is?
Yeah, protein is a complex substance of multiple proteins. So when we say protein, it's not just one protein.
What
it's
is it?
actually, a couple of different proteins, right? I don't recall the names of all of those, but it's at least.
What are amino acids?
Yeah, amino acids. It's what going to break down to get you protein right into your. So
It's the building blocks
yeah,
of protein,
building blocks.
right?
Yeah.
So if you find that all 9 essential amino acids that
Yeah,
the body needs
that's what I'm
are
saying,
in
right?
all plants.
Yeah, but then again, if you are consuming, let's say, 100 gram of a plant-based diet, that's going to give you one amino acid.
No,
You're-
it's going to give you all 9 essential amino acids that you need.
Yeah, but it's not everywhere that's possible, right?
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes,
Because
it
if you say,
Yes, it is. All plants contain all 9 essential amino acids.
not sure, but can you name one plant which has all 9 essential amino acids?
As I said, soy. peas,
soy has everything.
chickpeas.
I'm not sure. Like soy has every of those.
It has. First of all,
9
soy has
essential-
all 9 essential amino acids, and
But
not
how
only that,
much-
it is a complete protein. It has
but-
them in all the right
Yeah,
amount.
but how much gram of soy are you going to consume to have the
Less
same
than of
amount
meat.
less than of meat?
Yeah.
But how available is soy in world right now?
It's the most available thing worldwide. It is
Okay.
more available than meat actually, because
Okay.
again, soy is fed to animals.
All right. So then, what I want to ask
But
is,
but because
Yeah,
like I'm failing to understand how you can morally justify, like regardless of all of this, how can you morally justify exploiting and killing animals when you do not need to?
yeah, but then again, you have to have the alternate sources ready, right?
No. If you can have a plant-based diet that is healthy, nutritious, and provides everything that you and your body needs, how can you morally justify exploiting animals when you don't need to? Again, you can get everything that food requires, that any food would require to your body or yourself from plants and plant-based products. So how can you morally justify choosing to exploit animals?
Right. So if you're saying that if you're getting everything from plant-based diet, right? So why do we need to have the animals in that?
We
case?
don't.
Yeah. So then again, how did the initial humans develop the?
Who cares?
Yeah. But then again, right? So it
You're
must
in,
have
a,
provided.
you're in a world nowadays where you can. We
Yep.
have studies nowadays. We have nutritional studies. We have science. We have evidence-based science. We have, like, I'm not talking here about my opinion. This is evidence-based science that says that we can thrive on a plant-based diet. Regardless, like maybe in the past people couldn't do it because they didn't have access to everything that we do today.
Okay.
But we have access today. How can we today morally justify exploiting and slaughtering innocent animals for something we don't need?
Right. So if you're saying that we have those means right now and we can shift to it, then it would be good for everyone, right?
Yeah.
But then again, my only concern is that is it going to be ecologically balanced?
Of course
in that
it is.
sense?
It's going to be
Yeah.
better for the ecology, but let me ask you, even if it were worse, why would that matter? Do you think, because let me ask you this, if you had the option to choose to kill a person or not kill a person, you know that killing a person would be ecologically better for the planet, because that person would be consuming far less resources. It would be monumentally better for the environment. But you never choose to kill that person because you find it immoral. So on top, before we even consider the environment, we have to consider the morality of our choices. So that's what I'm asking you. Do you think morally we should be choosing to exploit innocent animals?
Yeah, but then again, right, it's not always about choice of morality, right? If you're talking about morality, right, yes, you should not over-exploit animals.
No, you should
right?
not
You should
exploit
not
them at all.
exploit, yeah. No, but then again, right, so how do you,
so how much
do you
exploitation
define
is moral
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you?
that's what I'm saying. Right? How do you define exploitation?
Well, using them against their consent and for your own benefit.
But then again, right, that's what happens in nature at all times, right?
So
you-
what?
you
In
cannot
nature,
be-
animals kill each other. Does that
Yeah.
mean we should be killing each other?
No, but that's what happened. That's,
so
that's
what?
had
But
already
we find it
happened.
immoral
Yeah.
and we don't do it, right?
That's what
So
humans
something
have
happening
become
in nature
smarter.
doesn't really matter,
No,
right?
but that's what I'm saying. Right? Humans have become smarter over time, not to exploit, because it's not too long ago that they were exploiting each other, right? Humans were exploiting each other. Slavery and other stuff was still prevalent like about 100 years ago as well, right?
Okay.
So that used to happen. So now the humans have evolved to a time where they do not have to exploit their fellow human beings, right? And like you're saying that, we have new alternative methods nowadays to grow plant-based diet,
10
right?
years now,
So
yeah.
so that's what I'm saying, right? Eventually that can turn into that you're not consuming animal products to an extent where it feels like over-exploitation.
No. But how do you morally justify consuming one single animal product per year? For that one animal product, one innocent animal had to be exploited and slaughtered for you. So how do you morally justify that?
Yeah, unless and until you have alternative sources readily available to you, which are cost-effective to you, and they also fulfill your dietary needs and your other needs as well.
Well,
Then you don't
wait.
need-
What are the needs?
Like your clothing needs and other such stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. So if you have alternatives, there is no way to morally justify choosing animal products.
if you have alternatives, yeah.
So is it immoral to choose animal products then?
Immoral right now, I wouldn't say because
We have alternatives.
we don't have alternatives readily available right
Yes,
now.
we do. We do.
No.
Where do you
don't
live?
have- I live in Luxembourg right now. But,
Luxembourg has a lot of alternatives.
Yeah,
man.
but I have been living in India for the last 25
So
years.
you have now,
I've
right?
gone-
So how can you going further in the future, living in Luxembourg, being here in Amsterdam, how
Yeah.
can you morally justify choosing animal products? That would be immoral.
Yeah, but if you have those, because just to clarify again, I'm a vegetarian. I haven't eaten a single piece of meat in my
Doesn't
entire
matter. You
life.
still exploit
Yeah.
animals,
Yeah,
right?
but
Animals are sexually exploited for you, for
Yeah,
for
so
meat,
that's what I'm
for
saying,
milk,
right?
for cheese,
yeah,
for
so
dairy products,
are,
for
are
eggs,
the
for all of this.
yeah. So if I go into a supermarket right now, are the alternatives readily available to me?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes.
But I don't see a lot of them because I'm a vegetarian. Finding vegetarian food for me is really tough.
I don't know where
Yeah,
you're looking. If you go,
it's-
there's an Albert Heijn right over there.
Yeah,
You go in there
are
and you have
options.
vegan options.
Yeah, there are vegan
fully.
options, but that's what I'm saying. They're vegan options. They're not readily available at all places, right?
They
If I-
are
if I-
all
if
over
I-
the Netherlands, and I've been to Luxembourg and also in
Yeah,
Luxembourg.
yeah. But if I go to some place like, let's say, Vietnam right now, right, they have a lot of options, but it's not always readily available.
No, in Vietnam you can always substitute meat with tofu.
That's what
I've
you're
also
saying.
done
That
that.
you can substitute it,
Yeah.
right? But that's what I'm saying. It's not as readily available as
What do
the
you mean
other
it's readily
manual-
available? Substituting it with tofu means it's readily available.
No. So if let's say if I'm going to buy a piece of meat right now in
But
the
wait,
market,
why would you buy a piece of meat when you can buy tofu?
Yeah, but do you find tofu a lot in Luxembourg?
Yes,
I don't.
you do.
No.
Yeah, you just have to go into a
No,
supermarket.
I go into a supermarket and I try to find this stuff. So I'm not saying these things
No, that's
hypothetically.
bullshit. That's such a
do
bullshit
go, man.
argument.
I do go to the. So that's what I'm saying, right? So if I want to
If you're telling me Luxembourg doesn't have tofu, that's such a bullshit argument. I've
No,
been to Luxembourg, my man. I've been
might have
twice to
tofu.
Luxembourg. They have
tofu,
plenty of it.
They have paneer as well, right?
But paneer exploits animals. What do you mean? I'm not talking about exploiting animals and
I get it,
slaughtering
right?
them.
So even if I'm talking about those vegetarian options, I go to.
You
the
mean the ones that
vegetarian
exploit
options.
animals?
No, about those.
So
Let's,
the
let's
vegan
talk about the vegan
options.
options as well,
Yeah.
right? If I want to go and get those vegan options,
Yeah.
right, there are not a lot of variety for me as well, right? So in
Who
that
cares
sense-
about that? Wait, is your variety more important than the exploitation and slaughter that these animals go through?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, right? It
No, that's
becomes-
not what you're saying.
I'm
I'm asking you a
are
question.
the
Is your
alternatives-
variety more important than the exploitation that these animals go through?
But are the alternatives readily available? Right?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
not.
they're on the shelf, just like everything else.
But-
So let me ask you: is your variety or your convenience more important than the animals, that the
Okay,
exploitation and slaughter that these animals
let's say
go through?
if I go into a supermarket right now.
No, you have to answer my questions
yeah,
first.
Yeah, please.
Is your variety or your convenience more important than the exploitation and slaughter that these animals go through?
No, I would say no. My convenience is not that. But then again, right?
So then,
the
what does it matter if
convenience-
it's readily
my
available?
convenience
That's
would-
about convenience.
Yeah, my convenience would come in an ideal world, right? At the end of the day, humans have to consume for their own needs, and after they've completed their
So
needs,
you
then
don't
they
need
go
to
into
consume
the-
animal products.
Yeah, I don't need. I
Exactly.
don't need. I can survive because I have survived. I
And
have
you can
never
thrive
eaten
on
meat.
plants and plant-based products.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That I have survived that on.
And I'm not
my
I'm
plant.
saying thriving. That means being as healthy as you can be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? But if I go into a supermarket right now, how many sources of protein do I get from animal products, and how many sources of protein do I get from vegan products?
I don't know. Let's imagine there's 100 sources of animal products and one source of plant-based products.
Yeah.
Why does it matter? You have a source.
That's what I'm saying, right? So then
But
again,
there's not. There's hundreds of sources.
Then
also
again,
for
right? Then
plant-based
again,
products.
you're a
There's
nutritionist.
beans, chickpeas, lentils,
Yeah,
tofu,
but
tempeh, as I said,
that's what
pasta,
I'm-
rice, all of these.
Yeah,
There's
that's what I'm
sources.
saying, right? So then again, these sources, these alternatives are not as readily available as meat sources right
We're
now.
talking
Yeah,
about
but what I'm-
beans, lentils, chickpeas. They're everywhere.
Yeah, they are not everywhere, right? You don't get all of these sources.
100% sure that they're in
No,
all
if-
supermarkets.
If I say right now, if I have, let's say, 100 different types of protein in animal products right now, I don't have 100 different types
What
of
kind
protein.
of 100? First of all, you have what? 3 types of animal protein, right? You have from 3 animals.
Yeah.
Animals who are exploited and slaughtered. Can you think a little bit outside of yourself and your choices and think a little bit about the victims that you're putting into slaughterhouses? About these victims specifically? Let me show you, because you seem to be forgetting this kind of stuff. And you know, this.
Yeah, no,
This.
I do get it. I do get. That's what I'm saying, right? But then again,
But then again, why pay for this? You have, even
Yeah.
if you have only one choice, why pay for this?
yeah, but then again, you have to have those alternatives readily available, right? So
No,
we
you
can
don't. You
stop
just
it.
said your convenience doesn't matter. If you don't have them readily available, you move to the next supermarket and you have it available.
Yeah, but then again, right, I move to the next super. That's what I'm saying, right? It's not that ready because it's going to cause.
It
me-
is readily
Yeah,
available, but
yeah.
my point is that even if it weren't readily available, you still couldn't morally justify it.
Yeah, you can't morally justify that because you are getting.
So
your
you would be
needs
immoral.
fulfilled. Yeah, so if you are saying that we are going to get our needs justified from the plant-based proteins, right?
Yeah.
So I don't need to go to that. I don't need to go to animal-based products, right?
So
But
consuming
then-
animal products would be immoral.
Yeah, if you are getting the alternatives available, then it would be immoral.
No, it
right?
would be
Because-
immoral in all situations because you have alternatives.
No, but that's what I'm saying, right? You don't get a lot of those readily available. You don't get the alternatives readily
What does readily available mean to
Readily
me?
available
to you?
means that I can go to any store I want. I can just go and grab a
But wait, you just said,
cost-effective.
so wait, if you get them, if you only find them at 50% of the stores,
Yeah,
does that morally justify you exploiting and slaughtering animals?
yeah. It never morally justifies exploiting anything.
Okay,
right?
okay, so then it doesn't really matter because you also mentioned because it would be maybe let's say a bit inconvenient to you to go to a different supermarket,
Yep.
but you just said that your convenience does not matter more than their existence or their exploitation and slaughter. So then you should still it should still not matter and you should still choose to not exploit or slaughter innocent animals regardless if you find an option in that particular supermarket that you enter to or not.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, right? If you are
not.
saying, if you are having those choices available, right? Morally exploiting anything is not good at all, right? If you are saying you are not morally exploiting animals at all, that would also be justified that you don't want to because you are getting those options readily available. But what's happening is that you need time to get into that because let's talk about how we were exploiting humans just couple hundred years ago.
No, I don't want to talk
But
about
now,
human
yeah,
exploitation. You know why? Because, first of all, as we've discussed, there's plenty of human exploitation in animal agriculture also. So you are exploiting animals and humans, and now you want to switch to human exploitation. Why? I just want to know how is it, what are you going to do going forward? Are you going to continue exploiting animals or are you going to stop?
Yeah, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to advocate for the alternatives to be more readily available, and once that's done, I would say that the next step is
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. No, you're just bullshitting right now. You're just trying to find reasons for you to continue doing what you want to do. You're going to be going in every supermarket. In I think 90% of the restaurants here in Amsterdam, you're going to be going into one. You're going to have 100% sure of plant-based options. 90% of the restaurants here have a plant-based option.
Yeah, they have.
You are going to be one.
that's what-
So how can you
that's
morally
right.
justify choosing anything else?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you said that you're a nutritionist, right? If I have just one option to get
So go
this
to a
vegan,
different
right?
restaurant where you have more options.
But then again, right? So what I'm saying is that you need variety in your food as well to have a balance.
So what you're saying
right?
is that your variety is more important than the exploitation in animals
My
that
balanced
animals
diet
go
is
through.
also important, right?
Is
To
it
have
more
a
important
balanced
than
diet.
what animals go through?
No, but if you don't have a
So
balanced
if it's
diet,
not
you're
more
going to
important
have
than what
diseases.
if it's not more important than what animals go through, how come your actions say otherwise? Because again, you're going to go forward from here. You're going to be having plenty of options. You can switch restaurants. You can always choose something else. You can choose a different supermarket, different restaurant, different everything. And yet you think that I sit down here. Oh, it's so difficult for me. Therefore, I will cut the throat of a cow. I will pay for a cow to have their throats cut because you know what? It's difficult for me to get up and move to the next restaurant.
Yeah, but then that's what I'm saying, right? That the first step should have to be the option should be readily available. There should
So
be
you're
more
saying
readily
it's morally
available.
justified for you to sit down at the restaurant and be so lazy that you don't want to get up and move to the next restaurant where you have the option that you want that is plant-based. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like this, right?
It
So
shouldn't be like
because
this,
it
but
shouldn't be like
sadly,
this.
what you're saying is that that's what you think is okay to do. That it's okay to cut the throat of an innocent animal because you can't be bothered to get up of the chair and go and move 50 meters to the next restaurant.
Okay, so let's say that in nature as well, right? In nature,
No,
one animal,
not in nature. I don't care in nature, but I don't care about nature.
Yeah, let me continue on that as well, right? If I'm saying that an animal that is hunting is just going to have one type of animal available, right? So what's going to happen with that, right? Let's say the animal is going to keep doing the same. So let's say there are.
Are you an animal?
No, that's what I'm saying. That we have
Are you an
grown-
animal?
Grown morally over that, but the animal instincts have already been, always.
Did
been
you
there.
sniff my ass when you came here?
No, man.
Animals sniff their ass when they meet. Why didn't
No,
you sniff my ass?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Why
right?
didn't you sniff my ass?
We have evolved beyond that, but
Yeah.
at the same time, what I'm saying is that you need to have options available before you say that anything has to be
You
stopped.
do have options. You just don't have options at that restaurant. You can choose a different restaurant. You can choose.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? But you also
No,
have
that's
to
not what you're
choose.
saying. What you're
I
saying is
have
that if
to
you sit down
choose.
at a restaurant, well, you can't be bothered to get up and choose another restaurant if you don't have another option. That's what you're saying.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Because
Oh,
okay,
Jesus
okay.
Christ.
Let's
That's
go
not
back on
what you're
this one.
saying.
Let's go back on this one. Why advocate for stopping animal products when you should be advocating more on getting those options, getting those alternatives more readily available? Wouldn't that be easier for everyone if you have other options
There
available?
are options available, dude. There are. I've just went with your hypothetical that maybe there aren't, and even in the situation where there are very few, you should still morally choose those. You should have moral obligation to choose those if you say you're against the exploitation and slaughter of animals, because they would. The minute you have an option, everything else becomes optional. That's it. It doesn't matter. Taste, nothing matters. Everything else becomes optional. If you can get your nutrition from one source that doesn't exploit or slaughter animals, everything else becomes optional. So for optional products, if you choose to exploit and slaughter an animal, you think that it is moral to do so. Even if you find it at 10% of the restaurants, you can always choose something else. They don't have a choice. When you choose for an animal to have their throat cut, how many choices do you think they have? They get put in a box, they have their throat cut, and all because you couldn't be bothered to choose something else.
Yeah, so morally it's not correct.
So morally, it's not correct. So then how can you go on further and making these morally wrong choices? Don't you think you have a moral obligation to make the morally right choices?
But that's it's not in a realistic world where everyone is going to.
But
look
is
at
it for
this
you? I don't
morally.
care about everyone. Is it for you? You live in Luxembourg. You are walking in Amsterdam. You definitely have choices.
I don't eat meat. I don't eat any of those.
No, you eat dairy products, which are worse than meat. They sexually exploit cows. They take away their babies from them because they want to take their milk, and they kill the babies that are born male, and they do this repeatedly until they can no longer get them pregnant. When they cannot get them pregnant, they kill them. That's what happens in the dairy industry. That's what you pay for.
But that's what I'm saying. What are the other alternatives for me right now in the market?
Tofu, tempeh, rice, beans, alpro soy, all of this stuff. You have so many choices.
Yeah, but then again, are they part of my dietary? Do I know how to cook those stuff? I need to learn those.
So
right?
learn those.
So I learn those. But then again, what I'm saying is, if the alternatives are more readily available, why would I even go for dairy products? Are the alternatives readily available?
I don't know. If you go to a restaurant and you have plant-based options, why would you choose for a cow to get sexually exploited?
Yeah, but okay, your words are totally right. It's not morally okay, but then again, what options would I have if they are not readily available?
But they are.
They aren't.
They are.
Aren't, right? So if you say tofu and tempeh and other stuff,
100%
right,
they are.
Are they already a part
Yes.
of what I cook, what I like?
I don't care if they're part of what you cook. They should be part of what you cook.
They should be, right? In an idealistic world, they should be.
No, not in a idealistic
But in-
world.
in
In,
a-
the
in a
world where you
realist-
respect your own values, where you say it's wrong to exploit animals, and you still choose to not to exploit animals because you're not used to it. Really, is that really what your values say? I'm going to continue having slaves because I'm not used to not having slaves. I'm going to continue exploiting animals because I'm not used to not exploiting animals. Really, is that really the values that you want to live by?
No, but what I'm saying is, to stop the exploitation of animals for everything, we should more actively
No, we're
promote
going in circles.
alternatives.
We're going in
availability.
circles. There's plenty of alternatives. There's plenty of alternatives, and the alternatives are growing. And if you want to promote alternatives, what's
Okay,
the best way to promote
let's-
alternatives?
Let's
what's
go-
the best way
let's-
to promote
let's do
alternatives?
one thing. Let's go into one of these restaurants right now.
Dude, I'm
And-
on the live right now, but you
Yeah,
can go
but-
and
but-
even that hot dog stand has a vegan option.
Let's go to them and
Even
let's
that
say
hot dog
how
stand
many
has a
how
ve-
many
They have one
options.
vegan option.
One vegan option.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, right? They need to have
What do you
more
mean?
options.
Why do you need more?
Because if we want to stop exploitation for animals, we need to have alternatives available
Wait,
as well.
why do you need more? You can choose if you want a hot dog, you have a vegan hot dog or any other type of
Okay,
animal hot
le-
dog. Why
le-
do you need to kill an animal to have a hot dog?
Let's say that you're wearing these clothes.
No,
How many?
Respond to my question. In this hot
How
dog.
many pairs of clothes do you own?
Jesus Christ, I don't know. Like,
No,
please respond to my
please.
question.
No, please respond to my
I'm
how
not.
many? How
this,
many?
this is tiring
Wait,
because you
man,
keep
wait,
going in
wait,
circles. You
wait.
keep
No,
saying there's no alternatives.
I'll
I
come
told
to
you
my
there's
point.
alternatives
I'll come to
even
my
here,
point.
right
I'll
here.
come to my point.
I don't know how many pairs of clothes I have. I don't know, 5. Let's say 5. I
let's
give
say
you a number,
Why
5.
didn't you have just 2?
I actually have exactly the amount that I need. That's it.
But why not 2? Like, can't you survive in 2?
Yes, I do.
What's it?
Everything else has been given to me. I haven't bought it myself.
But why do you have it right now? Why don't you donate it to other people? Why have
I donate
more
a lot of
fashion
them to other
available?
people also, yeah.
Yeah, but why do you have five pairs?
Wait, but even if I did have, like, if I had no, if some of the choices I would be making would be exploiting innocent animals or humans, I would choose to not buy them regardless. I don't need them, as you said, right? There's no need.
To make your
In
clothes-
absence of need, exploitation isn't justified if that's what you're trying to
let's
say.
Let's say a lot of the clothes right now in the world are made in either China, Vietnam,
mine.
or other countries, right, as well.
Not mine.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Where was your clothes made? Where was your clothes made? Cloth.
Yeah, that's why
Where
I
was
pay a
it
lot of
grown?
money for the clothes that I buy
Where
and
was
I
it
buy
grown?
rarely.
Where was it grown?
Here, Netherlands.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
do you have the something that says it was grown in Netherlands? Okay, and do you know where was your belt buckles made, where were your caps
Yeah,
made, where
yeah.
were every these threads was made?
Yeah, that's how I buy clothes. I look.
But why
I
do you
look
have
at my
5 pairs of
sourcing.
them then?
Jesus fucking Christ,
What
man!
is the
How can you
necessity?
morally justify exploiting innocent animals?
But
No,
then
I don't
again-
want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to talk to you anymore. No, I know. I'm just gonna give you a card just to listen to how absurd. Listen back to
No,
how
but-
absurd your arguments
No,
are.
I-
You want to exploit and slaughter innocent animals because you say you don't have enough choices.
no,
If you have
that's-
one single choice is enough.
That's what I'm saying. If you have one single choice in your clothes, why do you own 5 pairs of clothes?
Because choosing more. If you have two choices, it doesn't really matter,
okay,
does it?
I'll
If you have
say-
two choices
I'll
that
say-
don't
okay,
exploit and
I'll-
slaughter
I'll
innocent
say-
animals, why
I'll
does
say
it
to you
matter?
in this way, that exploiting animals is bad. I agree with you 100%.
Yet your actions say something
Yeah,
else.
but then again, you need to have alternatives. Just like I'm saying,
You have
if
alternatives.
If you have 5 pairs of clothes,
You have plenty
why
of
not
alternatives.
survive with just 2? Because your necessity is just having
You have
even
plenty
one
of
pair of
alternatives.
clothes. Even with one pair of clothes, you can
And
survive.
I do have. I only have the bare necessity.
Bare necessity. You're saying bare necessity.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say that. Okay, you are surviving with the bare necessity.
Yeah.
But how many of these people are surviving on the bare necessity?
Why do I care? Why my question is, how do you morally justify
then
exploiting
again,
innocent
if you
animals?
want to stop exploitation of animals, you'll have to get the masses on board with you, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, right? If you are saying that we need to stop the animal exploitation, you need to have options readily available.
And you do have options readily available. This hot dog stand has a vegan option.
as
you,
a
need-
vegan option. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
A vegan option.
Yeah, and it has only one other option for one animal, the one other option for another animal, and yet you somehow seem to think that, well, that's morally justified for me to cut the throat of an animal because I only have one other option.
That's what I'm saying, right? So
No, that's not what you're saying. You're saying that
it's
it's morally justified to exploit and slaughter an innocent animal because you only have one other option. Come on, man. That's that's the most ridiculous argument I've ever
How much
heard my entire
resources were
life.
spent on making 5 pairs of clothes versus 2 pairs of clothes? You're exploiting water resources then.
Yeah.
Why are you exploiting water?
Yeah,
man?
sure. That's what I'm doing. That's how because you don't understand the idea that systems that contain exploitation need to be improved, and systems that inherently depend on exploitation need to be abolished. Animal agriculture is a system that inherently depends on exploitation and thus needs to be abolished.
Abolished,
But yeah,
exactly.
okay. So how are you abolishing animal agriculture?
I don't use meat products, so I've already.
Wait, what do you mean? You're not abolishing it. You're paying for cows to be sexually exploited, have their babies stolen from them and killed.
Yeah, but then again, you are also.
So
using
why are
water
you doing that?
resources.
Why are you
using
doing
water?
that? Why are you doing
making
that when you
dyes?
have alternatives?
Why are you filling up
Why are you doing
landfills?
that when you have alternatives?
I don't have alternatives
You
readily
do.
available to
You
me.
have readily available. You're just lying to yourself.
You
And I
said
don't care for
hot dog
people who are
stand
not
right
intellectually
now.
honest.
I-
I don't care for people who are not intellectually honest. I'm sorry, but you are.
When I asked
You are very much
the
a
very
liar.
simple
So-
question.
and I don't really want to have a conversation with you
When
anymore.
I asked you a very simple question of why you own 5 pairs of clothes, you just shifted the talk and you just.
No.
said, "Yeah,
We've already went through it. I don't want to continue this conversation. We're going in circles. You seem to think that it's morally justified to cut the throat of an animal
When-
because you only have one option. Oh, boo-hoo! I cannot possibly eat only one other option in this restaurant, and I cannot be possibly. It's so difficult for me. I'm the victim. I have to get up from this chair and move to this other chair. Oh, I'd rather cut the throat of an animal because I'm the victim really here. You're the victim in this
I said you're wearing an
situation.
iWatch, right? Where was this iWatch manufactured? You're saying that you bought everything.
Systems
from-
of exploitation, what? And systems that inherently depend on exploitation. Tell me.
So what I'm saying, if
Systems
if
that
you're
contain
buying
exploitation, what
something that
happens to
was made
systems
in a
that contain
country where
exploitation?
people were exploited
Systems that
for
contain
labor,
exploitation, what happens? What do we need to do for systems that contain exploitation?
we need to get more options available.
No.
We need
For
to have
systems that
alternatives
contain
available.
exploitation, we need to improve those systems. For systems that inherently depend on exploitation, what do we need to do?
We need to abolish them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, in this situation, if I weren't to buy this watch, the children that you claim that are making this watch, yet they weren't, by the way, I actually checked. But let's say that you think that some children's made my watch. I don't buy the watch. I don't buy any electronics. Do you think that that factory is going to close down, or do you think those children are going to be working for something else because it is a systemic issue in that country? And it is a system that contains exploitation, and you abolishing it will not change it, but rather just make it move to a pivot to another situation. Whereas if you abolish animal agriculture will shrink. Plant agriculture will increase and animal agriculture will shrink. Exploitation of animals will shrink. Exploitation of humans will shrink. Hell, like you just seem to want to find something at fault at me. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that you have options. You can 3 times per day you make options. You can choose to exploit an innocent animal or not. That's it. You don't find it at that restaurant, move to the next restaurant. You don't find it at this supermarket, move to the next supermarket. You live in countries where there's such an abundance of supermarkets and restaurants that you literally have to walk 5 or 10 minutes more to find the next one. That's it.
Yep, definitely. But that holds true for everything. That's what I will say. That holds true for everything.
Listen to the
Even
conversation.
for you,
Listen
even
to
for
the
your clothes,
conversation
it
back.
holds true.
Listen to the
Even
conversation
for your
back.
shoes, it holds
Yes,
true.
yes. My shoes are actually also vegan, and they actually are what do you call it? They're fair trade and vegan. So yeah. No,
Yeah, but then again, how many pairs do you need and how many pairs do you
I just
own?
have one.
That's cool, man.
I've been wearing it for 2 years.
You say it, I'll probably watch it on YouTube. Maybe you have just one pair of clothes.
You wanna have a conversation with me?
Yeah, I just saw some sign of like social experiment.
Yeah.
I was interested in
Are you okay being live for my YouTube channel?
Yeah, no problem.
What's your name?
My name is David. Nice to meet you.
Hi, David. Nice to meet you. Where are you from?
Oh, I'm like half Latvian, half Russian. Yeah, so I was born, I spent my childhood some years there, some years there, so I'm all the time traveling, yeah.
Okay, so David, how do you feel about animals?
Animals, oh, I love them very much.
You love them?
Amazing, yeah.
Which animals do you love?
My plan is, it's true, it's not a dream, it's a target, because I'm gonna buy a house in about 3 years, and I wanna have a raccoon. I'm fan of raccoons and all these suricats and all a bit exotic animals, yeah. And dogs, sorry, yeah.
Nice, nice.
Dogs especially, yeah. But again, some crazy stuff like husky.
Do you think would it be okay to exploit animals?
To what to do?
To exploit them?
Exploit.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that means
what?
basically using them for your own benefit and against their detriment.
No,
Like without considering their well-being, basically.
I'm alright in using animals in only like related to domestic animals like cows, sheep.
Wait, why? I
chicken.
thought you loved animals. Do you think cows, chickens, and pigs do not deserve love?
For me, there's a type of animals that like created artificially for our use.
And do you think that's moral to do so to these animals?
I know what you're talking about. I know this real philosophy what you're talking about. But unfortunately, I can't. I better be honest. Yeah, when I eat meat, I like the meat. Recently,
Does your
I saw-
enjoyment of meat
Yeah.
morally justifies cutting the throat of an animal?
Yeah, because you know I'm Christian. I'm religious. Yeah, and Bible says that God gave us exactly this the domestic animals. Yeah.
So wait, if
To
God,
take,
but you just said they're artificial,
yeah.
so God didn't give it to us. That's already a contradiction.
No, I mean
from the
I
start,
say
right?
it's they kind of like artificially
So which is it?
created.
Did we
yeah?
did we make them or did God give them to us?
Okay, can I rephrase then? Yeah.
Yeah, which one
I
is
don't
it?
mind eating animals.
But which one is it? Are they artificial or were they made by us or did God give them?
No,
to
I
us?
think God created
So
everything.
God
yeah.
created. So if God created dogs, cats, chickens, pigs, raccoons, why is
Yeah.
it that you think that cows don't deserve moral consideration? As in,
Who
that
deserve cows?
moral consideration? As in, you don't think that they should be, that their well-being should be considered for something that you don't actually need. That your actions, you choosing to eat meat, is literally taking them into a slaughterhouse, cutting their throat for something that you don't actually need because you don't need to eat meat.
I'm sorry, I'm being honest. I don't mind.
You
Yeah,
don't-
that's
you don't
okay.
mind. But why is it that
Let's
you
call
don't
it the
mind?
two-faced attitude.
But
yeah.
why is it
Let's
that
call
you don't mind?
Because I eat what I want to eat, and
what's
if
the
I want to
difference?
hug and pet animal and I want to kill it, I'm not gonna kill it. Yeah.
So why don't you eat raccoons?
That's how I grew up. That's how they.
What's the morally significant difference between a raccoon and a cow that justifies cutting the throat of one for optional products and not the other?
Can you say again? Can you repeat the
Yeah,
question?
sure. Let me ask you this way. So, what is it that a cow
Can I interrupt? Where are you from?
or Romania originally? but let me ask
Romania.
you-
Oh, ce faci, frate?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I just
let me
had
ask you.
Romania
So,
from
nice. So, what is it that a cow doesn't have? That if a raccoon also didn't have it, it would make it okay to bring to life raccoons to kill them for food.
Okay, the group there is a wild animal, there is a
No,
domestic animal for use.
Well,
yeah,
wait,
for
wait, wait,
use.
Wait, no. You just said they're all wild because God gave us all those animals. That's what you said, right?
No, but he gave us the like chicken, cow, and all sheep. Yeah, that we like.
So if he gave us
Yeah.
those animals,
Is that
then they're
you,
just like
grew them,
just
yeah,
like he
and-
gave us all the other animals, right?
Yeah, but some of them we eat, some of them we don't eat. Yeah.
So how is that morally justified? What is the
No,
difference that justifies eating them versus not eating the other?
I would eat. I try.
You would eat
I try-
raccoons?
Yeah, if somebody would cook it.
Would you eat humans?
Yeah. Human? Probably no.
Why not?
Yeah, because I mean, I can be enemy to only to other species. No, human are the same type.
Do you
of
think? Do you think your God would rather you show compassion and fairness to these animals, or do you
Yeah,
think
yeah,
they'd
they-
rather that
Then
they'd
you
rather
just
you
better
cut the
read
throat of
Bible.
the
The Bible
animals?
says that we can even hunt, you know.
So do you
So,
think your
yeah.
God would rather you do this to an animal, or would you
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
you don't?
Old Testament. Look, in Old Testament there was a big,
In
a
Old
lot
Testament,
of
it
traditions.
also says that you should have a slave. Do you have a slave? Do you think
No,
it's moral
you
to have a slave?
You don't have. Okay, sorry, bro. You.
But what do you mean? In the Old Testament, it says you should have a
trying
slave.
to argue in the religion. You just read the Bible more, and then
I read. Did you read the Bible? It says that you should have a slave. I hope not. I hope not your God, because that would imply cutting my throat for something I don't need. Run away. Got up a little bit fired up there, everybody. This bullshit people who come here with arguments that, oh, but that's what I'm saying. I don't have enough options. That's just pissing me off. What do you mean? How many options do you need to not exploit animals? One is enough. You don't need 5 options. One is enough. And yet you have plenty of options. If he lives in Luxembourg, he has plenty of options. Entitlement, exactly, Ali. Well said, entitlement. Yeah. Freaking religion again, yes. I think everybody, I'm gonna be sitting here now with the vegan sign. Let's see if somebody bites. And that's it. Then I'm gonna go, because I got riled up over here. The Bible though, yeah. Imagine that. Imagine saying that a compassionate God, well, there's also this, I just realized that there's this contradiction of people saying that, well, these animals are domestic and these animals are wild, but God gave us both. Well, wait a minute, if God gave us both, then they're both wild, aren't they? Yeah, the ridiculousness of it. Religion, fucking stupid. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a dick. I really hate religion. I have no problem with with belief systems if somebody wants to believe something, but organized religion really does this. Organized religion always ends up justifying horrible acts of immorality, right? Like, that's why there's slavery in the Bible, because people could morally justify it at some point in our life, because they used organized religion to morally justify it. That's insane. Isn't vegan a religion point of view? No, veganism is a moral point of view. It's a moral philosophy. It's a moral principle, not even a philosophy. It's just one moral principle that exploiting and slaughtering innocent animals is wrong, given that you have plenty of available options. Given that you have options, then you have to have plenty of options. That's the whole point. Somebody says it's a cult. No, it is not. We don't have a leader. We don't. There's no indication of it being a cult. But there's actually a couple of YouTube videos that you can watch on that and maybe learn what a cult actually is. Yeah, Martin has the point. Thank you, Martin. Imagine saying, well, I don't have enough options. I can't be bothered to get up and move to another restaurant or go to another supermarket. Oh, that's so difficult for me. Ugh. Imagine thinking that. Jesus Christ. Hi.
Nederlands?
Engels, alstublieft.
Engels, oké.
Yeah.
Komen er nog meer mensen?
Uh,
Are you just on your own?
I'm just on my own now.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I
I know
need
that
to
if
know.
there's more people, I know I need a permit. But if I'm alone, I know I don't need a
Very
permit.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. He wanted to shut me down. He's not gonna. Nothing's gonna shut me down. Let's see. I have some fired up energy. Let's spend it on some people. Do you agree with the sign? It says if you're not vegan, you're supporting needless animal exploitation. Are you vegan? You are? Why are you vegan? I ask her, is she vegan? She says, I am. I ask, why are you vegan? And she said, I want to be. The fuck? We appointed Martin as leader yesterday. Martin is our leader. All hail Martin. Love it. Martin is a pretty good leader. I'll give you that. What if you have more people? You need a permit. Yeah, you need a permit. If in the Netherlands, the rule is if you're going to be doing activism or protest of any kind, and you're going to be more than one person, you need a permit. Yeah. What's a good cheese alternatives? Ask somebody. I mean, there's plenty of vegan cheeses. You know, actually, there was a funny thing that happened, I think 2 or 3 years ago, that somebody made a vegan cheese, submitted it into a cheese contest, and it won first place. And then once they realized what it was, they forbid it. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, you have vegan cheeses if that's something that you want. I would say, tofu is sometimes, like, I think if you spice it well enough, you can kind of use it as an alternative to feta. But you have, like, so many alternatives to do it. Like, there's no reason. Like, what's it called? There's a specific brand that makes vegan cheeses and makes freaking delicious ones. Like, the feta that they make is delicious. I forgot the name of it, but yeah. You can make a cheese out of cashews. It's so good. Yeah, that's a very good point. You just put some hot water with cashews, let it soak for 30 minutes, then blend it, and yeah, then let it harden. Maybe add some agar-agar or something to help with the hardening. Add some nutritional yeast, some salt, a little bit of spices, and then bam, that's it. Roberto Miranda says says that you're trying. Thank you for trying, first of all. And there's a thing called Challenge 22. They hook you up with a nutritionist. They send you recipes every day, and they help you go vegan for free. If you need more help, Roberto Miranda, like there's a link in the description of this video. You can check it out specifically to Challenge 22. So they might help you with accomplishing it. Whole food plant-based cheeses exist. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of fed up with some of the excuses of people. I think today is one of those days where I just don't want to be hearing ridiculous excuses. Like, I'm nice to people that, like, I start off nice with people, but when they start bringing up ridiculous excuses and they start saying stuff like, well, I don't have more than one option, therefore it's morally justified for me to exploit and slaughter an innocent animal, then that's kind of insane to me. I'm sorry. That just really annoys me. Really. You are really going to be disconsidering the sentience and the existence of a sentient being because you don't have more options, because you can't be bothered to go to another restaurant or a supermarket. That's disgusting. Disgusting behavior. Yeah. And everybody, if you're enjoying this fired up stream, hit that like and yeah, subscribe. There will be more fired up streams and more calmer streams. We have some of them depending on how I am. I'm trying to read the comments, but it's very difficult because of the sun to read the comments, and yeah, I'm just going to be trying to get some people to see this sign better. Do you agree with the sign? It says if you're not vegan, you're supporting needless animal exploitation. How many more animals should be exploited before you change? Vegans are fired up. Yeah, some of us are. I'm an animal rights activist. That's why I'm fired up. Not just because I'm vegan, but because I'm an animal rights activist. I fight for the rights of animals. Yeah, I start off nice. I saw somebody saying that in quotes. Yeah, I start off nice. I give people the benefit of a doubt. But when people start justifying horrible, immoral acts of cruelty, of violence towards innocent sentient beings for optional products, then yeah, I don't think I should be nice to those people anymore. I don't think when you are going to be cutting the throat of innocent animals because of your convenience, then you should deserve somebody who's fighting for the rights of those animals to be nice to you. I don't think you should expect somebody who's fighting for the rights of animals that you can't be bothered to even regard. I don't think you should expect those people to be nice to you. That's just my opinion. I wouldn't expect somebody, if I were to be a misogynist, I'm not. I actually am a feminist. But let's assume I wouldn't expect a misogynist to have a problem, to be nice to me if I was, sorry, I wouldn't expect a feminist to be nice to me if I was a misogynist, right? I would definitely be expecting some issues there. You agree? Are you vegan? Hell yeah, love it. More of us. Nice. 2 other vegans just passed by. And they were like, hell yeah, I agree. They were like, yay. The guy is unhinged. How dare I? How dare I fight for animal rights? I'm so unhinged to question the norms that you have been taught your whole life. How dare I put under the question mark something that you have been doing your whole life, something that is extremely violent and exploitative? How dare I? How dare I stand against violence and injustice? How dare I stand against it for the most innocent victims worldwide, for the most defenseless ones, the ones that we selectively bred, that we bring to existence for the sole purpose of exploiting and slaughtering? How dare I? How dare I be so unhinged? I'm sorry, it's just funny. How dare I be this way? Come on. Really? Do you really think this is morally justified? Do you really think this violence towards animals is justified for something that you don't need? Do you think it's okay to violate the body autonomy of an innocent animal because you get some form of pleasure? Is that it? Come on. Let's be honest. It is violent, it is cruel. This is what you're paying for if you're buying animal products. Yeah, some people don't want to look at it. It's difficult to look at this shit. It is. I agree. So then don't pay for it, so that we don't have to look at it, so that we don't have to show it to you. Oh, it's difficult to read the comments. Do you guys agree with the sign?
I'm already vegetarian, almost vegan.
Oh, so you're paying for this?
No.
Well, this is what happens to dairy cows also.
Yeah, indeed.
Dairy cows get exploited and slaughtered. You should be vegan. If you're not vegan, this is what you're paying for. People will laugh. People will be like, you're crazy, you're unhinged, because I stand up for the rights of the defenseless. Hell yeah, man. Thank you for telling me this. Thank you for making me a movement. Thank you for making a movement out of me. Thank you for showing just how difficult it is to fight for some rights. Thank you for showing that the struggle is real, that people do not want to change. If you're not vegan, this is what it is that you're supporting. Violence for animals, innocent animals. Yeah, we gotta change the world, everybody. We gotta do it. And sometimes we gotta be a little bit like this. We gotta fight a little bit. We gotta be a little bit unhinged. Of course, you don't have to do what I do like I do. And if you think there's a better way of doing it, please do it. I urge you to do it. Please stand out there, go out there, speak to people. Speak about animals, speak about their sentience, speak about how similar a pig is to a dog, how similar a dog is to a cow, how not a dog, not a pig, none of them deserve to be exploited and slaughtered for something you don't need, how all animals deserve moral consideration, how in dairy industry animals get exploited and slaughtered for something we don't need, how in the dairy industry cows get forcefully inseminated so that they get pregnant, how in the dairy industry they kill the cows when they can no longer get them pregnant, how in the dairy industry they kill the babies because they're useless to the industry if they're born male, how in the dairy industry they repeatedly impregnate cows until they can no longer get them pregnant, how in the dairy industry they separate the babies from their mother. We need all of this to be known. We need more people to speak up. We need more people to know this. We need more people to know that if you're not vegan, you're paying for violence. Violence. That's what you're paying for. Violence, exploitation, abuse. This is what you're paying for if you're not vegan. Violence. We gotta stop this violence. We got to stop it. We are cerebral people. We are logical people. We cannot continue exploiting and slaughtering animals. We cannot continue this exploitation, abuse, and violence towards innocent beings. We just cannot do it. We have to stand up. If it were slavery times, would you have stood up to slavery? Why are you not standing up now for the animals? Why are you not standing up for an injustice? Why are you supporting an injustice? I'm making some people feel guilty as I'm walking by. That's perfect. Some people need to think. You need to feel guilty. You need to judge your own actions. You need to change. We need the world to be better. We gotta stop it with this ridiculousness of, well, it's too difficult for me. It is not. There's several resources. Do you agree with the sign? It says if you're not vegan, you're supporting needless animal exploitation. You're vegan. Hell yeah. Are you speaking up for animals? Can I ask you, how is it that you speak up for animals?
Well, I'm not now. Thank you. Sorry.
It's okay, that's okay. Just please consider speaking up for them, because we need more people. Like, you know, every time a person chooses to buy an animal product, they're choosing to inflict incredible violence, exploitation, and abuse towards these animals.
I know, but in my experience, it's more efficient to just lead by example. Because people usually don't want to talk about this. They are not open. So if someone's open, it's enough to tell them that, look, I'm not eating them because I love them more than I love my taste buds, and that's usually enough.
So how did you go vegan? Was it by example, or was it by somebody showing it something to you?
Yeah,
I just want to say one thing: you're doing a good work. So unless and until someone says, it's never going to stop. So
yeah, we need to stop.
kudos to
Okay.
me. Yeah,
We need to
just
stop.
keep the conversation
I
open.
appreciate you. Okay. Watch the conversations that we have.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure,
Okay.
man. Okay, all the best to you.
Cheers.
Yeah, so that's all. But the friend is waiting for me.
That's
so
okay.
I'm
That's
leaving
okay.
now.
Okay. Consider joining We the Free or Anonymous for the Voiceless. They speak to people on the street. I'm a little bit, you know, sometimes I'm nice, sometimes a little bit more go stop at people. But you know, I think a lot of people just need a little bit of a reminder. And if you just speak to people just nicely, a reminder is good enough. You don't have to push them or anything that you don't feel comfortable.
Yes, I agree. I
Right?
agree.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being vegan either way.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Have a good one. Sorry, everybody. I was a little bit gone away. The person who I had the conversation with, I think they went to the stall right there and checked the hot dogs. I think they went to the supermarket and checked the options. And I think he realized that there are options, and came to me. I think you heard him to say that I'm doing a good job. Yeah. Well, thank you, but it doesn't really matter what I do. I'm not here to get praise. I'm not here to get for people to be like, oh, thank you for doing this, or I like what you're doing. It helps, don't get me wrong. But no, I do this for them. I do this because it's an injustice. I do this because we need injustices to stop. I do this because the innocent animals will always be exploited and slaughtered if we don't speak up, if we don't do something about it. There's groups you can join, there's all these things you can do. So yeah, sometimes I just think being vegan is not enough, sadly. But you know, I don't want to push anybody towards feeling uncomfortable if they're already making the right choices. Just, if you can, please consider the animals and consider speaking up for them, however it is that you want to do it. Again, you don't have to do it like myself, and I'm not one to judge however it is that you're doing it. As long as you're trying to make more people vegan, as long as you're trying to get people to stop exploiting innocent animals, that's all what it's about. We don't really care about anything else. Whoa, I got another. Thanks for speaking up. Hey, Bitch90, thank you so much. Chip, take it easy on the people of Luxembourg. They are going through a major tofu shortage, says Felix. Ah, Felix, that was funny. That was very funny. Somebody says livestock are food. Yeah, because you call them livestock. I could call you livestock also. You're still alive and sentient. Imagine me calling you livestock and then choosing to cut your throat for something I don't need, just because I get some pleasure from it, or just because it's convenient for me to do so. That's insane, isn't it? Okay, 5 more minutes, everybody. That's it. 5 more minutes, and then I'm gonna go away. I'll probably be back next week. Tomorrow, we're gonna be doing a We the Free event. We're gonna be standing up. Do you girls agree with the sign? It says, if you're not vegan, you're supporting needless animal exploitation. You don't speak English, but you see this violence, don't you? And you know that if you're not vegan, you're supporting this. Come on, be fair, be compassionate. That's all I'm asking. There was a girl who really didn't like seeing it. It's not nice to see, I agree. And I don't like showing this to people, but I think it is the best way for people to kind of wake up and see what it is that they're supporting. I think that when people hear the word vegan, all of a sudden they have a preconceived notion that we're militant, that we're annoying, that we're trying to, like somebody said in the chat, that we're a cult, that we're trying to get people on our side. I couldn't give a shit what you call yourself. I couldn't give a shit if you call yourself a vegan. I literally do not care what you call yourself. As long as you stop exploiting innocent animals. You don't even have to talk to any other person about it. You don't even have to say anything. As long as you stop exploiting innocent animals, do what you will. We just care about the animals. We fight for the animals. We stick up for the animals. Veganism is a position where we fight for animals to not be exploited. Well, where we choose to reject animal exploitation. Animal rights is the fight for animals. So yeah, I'm also an animal rights activist, as you can see. Do you agree with the sign? So yeah, that's all we want. We just want people to consider animals. We just want people to realize that they have choices. How can we ever morally justify choosing violence for an animal for something we don't need? How can we morally justify cutting the throat of an animal? How can we morally justify sexually exploiting an animal? How can we morally justify taking their babies away? How can we morally justify any of it? I mean, honest to God. And the animal agriculture is rife with abuse, with slaughter. And when you're not vegan, you support this shit. Slaughter, abuse. We need to stop it with this. We have options. We don't need to be choosing these products. We don't need to be justifying it. We don't need to. If you're feeling guilty, if you're feeling some form of bad, my intent is not to make you feel guilty. My intent is to tell you the truth. It is violent, it's abusive, it's exploitative, it's something that we shouldn't be doing to anybody. We wouldn't want to be doing this shit to our worst enemies, and yet we somehow choose to do it to the most defenseless, innocent creatures. We bring them to life for the sole purpose of exploiting and killing them. Imagine how fucked up that is, that we bring a being to life, a being who's capable of suffering, a being who's capable of feeling, a being who's capable of thoughts, emotions, that we bring them to life for the sole purpose of killing them, for the sole purpose of using them, for the sole purpose of treating them like a simple object. This is what we do when we're buying animal products. We're supporting the bringing to life of these animals. We're telling farmers, yeah, do more of it. Please bring more animals to life so that you can do whatever you need to do so that I get this product. When you're buying animal products, you're saying, I don't care what animals go through. I don't care what happens. I don't care that they get brought to life to be exploited and killed. I just want my product. I don't really care about these animals. I don't really care about the objectification that they suffer, the violence that they go through, the exploitation. No. All I care is that I get my product. And that's insane. That's an insane position to have for the most defenseless, innocent creatures who feel, who emote, who have a subjective experience of the world. who are just like you in all the ways that matter. That's an insane position to have. It's an insane position to have. Please choose compassion. Please choose fairness. That's all we want. Compassion, fairness. I wouldn't even say compassion is a part of it. I think compassion is if you want to be an animal rights activist. Fairness is the first thing. If you think it's fair to do this to animals because you get a kick out of it, that's insane. I don't think you're being intellectually honest if you think this is fair. It is not. It is definitely not. But yeah, that's it. That's it, everybody. We're done. You've been subjected to enough of myself today. You've been subjected to enough fighting. But we're going to continue fighting. And I appreciate all the vegans in this chat who will continue fighting. And I appreciate all the non-vegans here who have been listening to me rant about random stuff. I'm sorry I couldn't interact more with the chat today. It's difficult because the sun is coming from this position. But I appreciate everybody so much for being here. I appreciate everybody so much for tuning in, for listening to me, for fighting for the rights of animals, for being in the chat and speaking to everybody else, for having the patience to do so. You know, we need to continue this fight, and the reality is something that I've heard the last stream that I made with Sky. Sky, by the way, Sky Jack Morgan is a channel that I recommend you watch or follow if you ever want to consider some critical thinking. He's a little bit political these days, but you know, he still challenges you critically to think critically. One of the things that while talking to Sky, I realized is that our movement is exactly the same as the movement, the abolishing movement against slavery. It's exactly the same. People thought they were crazy. People thought they were like, people were fighting against them. There was violence. There were riots against abolitionists. There was so much dislikement. I don't even know. There was so much hate for people who stood for abolishment of slavery. There was so much disregard for the life of the individuals that were slaves. And now, when we speak about another injustice, which is synonymous to slavery, it is not for humans, but it is for animals. They're still enslaved, exploited, slaughtered, abused. When we speak about this today, so many people just bring it up to, but how do I get my products? How do I get my benefits? Imagine during slavery times, they were saying exactly this. But how do I get my cotton? How am I going to get my cotton if I don't have a slave? How are we going to build this if we don't have a slave? How am I going to get my breakfast if I don't have a slave bringing it to me? Like, it is insane. That's exactly what we're saying to animals. You can get everything that you need on a plant-based diet. You have alternatives. We provide you with help. We provide you with alternatives. Free help, free. Like, we provide you with access to a certified nutritionist. They help you out every day for 22 days to help you go vegan. Like, it's insane. For nutrition and for clothes, I mean, come on, you can just pick it. Do you really need to kill an animal for leather? Do you really need to wear leather shoes? You can wear plant-based leather shoes, or whatever else there is. There's so many alternatives. There's just no way to justify what we do to animals. There's just no way to justify it. And you know what? It gives me a lot of strength to know that, well, if I was to be born during slavery time, I would have been an abolitionist. I would have fought against slavery, just like I'm fighting now against animals. And I gotta ask, are you guys fighting with me? Do you guys stand for injustice or do you stand against it? Because I think that most people watching me, most people who are here are actually standing against injustice. Most people here understand the idea that an injustice is still an injustice, regardless if the victim is if you consider them morally or not, right? It's still an injustice. Regardless if you think a cow deserves body autonomy, it's still an injustice to take it away from them, regardless. Because, you know, you have to at least consider their perspective a little bit. So, I don't know what to tell you. Just don't be part of this injustice. Choose something else. Stand up for what is right. Even if it's a little bit more difficult at times, stand up for what is right. Speak up. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you for everybody who donated. It's amazing. I appreciate it. It helps me do this more often, of course. I don't do it for that. I don't do it for that. I don't do it for people tuning in. I don't do it for people subscribing. I don't do it for people commenting. All of those, obviously, I appreciate if people do it because, you know, they just make my life easier a little bit also because I'm human after all. I do it for the animals, and I'll continue doing it for the animals until we stop, which that might mean I'm gonna keep fighting for the rest of my life. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with continuing this fight forever. Because it is such a bad injustice. And we need people to open their eyes. We need people to stop being brainwashed by animal agriculture. We need people to stop. Just stop with with putting your own pleasure, with your own convenience above somebody else's subjective experience of life. We all deserve to be on this planet. We all. And if you bring a sentient being to life, I don't think that gives you the right to do whatever you want to them. Their life is not yours. Their life is theirs. So, yeah. Consider them. Consider animals, okay? There's a 3-minute challenge. If you're not vegan, watch the 3-minute challenge in the description of this video. I urge you, I challenge you. Hell, let's see how many of you are gonna have the courage to do it. I bet you none of you are gonna have the courage to do it. If you're not vegan, you're not gonna have the courage to watch a 3-minute video. Ah. I'm, I'm trying to entice you to watch it, but the reality is I do hope you watch it, just to get a little bit of a glimpse what it is that you're paying for, because you might not be for it, you know, and at some point you will wake up. I think at some point everyone listening to this will wake up. Uh, wait, have you considered 70% of the people on Earth constitute 70% of people on Earth? Okay, of course. That's a tautology. Most of people watching this, you know, maybe I think maybe even towards the end of your life or even before that, you will consider animals morally. You will see. All of us will eventually understand this perspective because we're not stopping. We're going to continue fighting. And once you do, you'll realize, holy shit, why didn't I do that sooner? So do yourself a favor, get informed. I'm just saying, do yourself a favor, look after your future self, get informed about it, and you know, stand up for your own values. Think for yourself. Don't just be part of everybody does it, therefore I will do it too, okay? Stand up for yourself. And do what is right, even if it is more difficult. Although it really isn't. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. What do you think about putting down pets? I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. There's something to be said about mercy killing, of course, you know. I would want to be mercy killed if I was in incredible pain. But I would want to have the choice also, right? It's difficult to be said. At the end of the day, I think the difference between pets and the animals that we exploit for food or for clothing is that with pets, we at least look after their own interests, don't we? Whereas for the animals that we exploit and slaughter for food, for clothing, for entertainment, we don't really look after their own interests. We just look after ours. That's it. If our interest says that we should exploit them, we'll exploit them. If our interest says that we should cut their throat, we cut their throat. That's it. We don't really consider them. The only reason why we have better or worse practices in animal agriculture is because there's people who feel bad about what it is that they're supporting, and they want, and animal agriculture responds with it. In fact, you can look it up. There's symposiums by animal agriculture proponents that they meet yearly, and they discuss exactly this kind of stuff. How can we get consumers to trust us more? How can we get consumers to feel good about their choices? They literally have meetings about how to get you, the consumer, to trust them more, how to get you to not feel bad about exploiting an innocent animal. That should say something, shouldn't it? The fact that they have to meet up every year and discuss this. They don't really care about animals. None of them do. They see them as products. They see them as objects. And if you don't share that value, then don't give them money to do so. Just don't give them. Keep your money. Give your money to farmers, like plant farmers. They don't see animals as objects, or some of them do, sadly. But at least they don't exploit animals for with your money, you know. At least they just grow more plants. At least they try to make. They're part of a system that will eventually improve the world, including animal rights. So think about it. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I hope you'll have an awesome day going forward. And yeah, that's it. We're done. We're done. I'll be back, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday, something like that. I appreciate you, okay? And subscribe. You might enjoy what I have to say.